All right, welcome back. We've got a big Monday here.
I'm a little close to you.
Yeah. Am I shouting in your ear? I got to have the energy. There's a lot going on in Blackhawk land right now. There's a lot going on in CHR land. This past week, we were kind of hinting at big announcements coming, and we have it for you today. So everyone get ready. March 5th, the Blackhawks are playing the Ottawa Senators. We're going to be live streaming it, but that's not the important part here, because we're going to be live streaming it at Midwest Coast Brewing, which is really close to the United Center. It's like near West Side, West Town area. We're going to be live streaming the game live for you guys to all come for free in person. It's going to be fun. Tassos, I'm sure you probably have a few more details than I do, but...
Yeah, so I'll jump in a little bit. We have the full rooftop, so they have an awesome rooftop. We have the whole rooftop to ourselves.
So sweet.
We will be getting there early that day. We'll be doing some setup. We'll be, sitting at the front. They have these like cool beer garden style tables for all, CHR listeners to kind of, mix and mingle and hang out and get to know one another. We will be live streaming the game. There will be discounted beers for everyone in attendance. You're gonna get, I think it's like a wristband thing. You'll come in, you'll say you're part of CHR. We're gonna put a post out on Instagram today, sort of like a little flyer we made. There is also in the link to this episode, in the link to the YouTube right now, if Raven put it in there, If so, there's a link that you gotta like sign up. Just like it's like an interest thing. Just let us know if you're coming. You know, if you're not coming. But yeah, the link is in the description of this episode on YouTube and in the description of the episode on Spotify, or if you're an audio listener to this right now, that interest form will be in the description of this episode. So yeah, let us know if you're coming. March 5th, baby.
Yeah.
Absolute cinema.
Yeah, yeah, it's Justin's spring break, so he will be in person, live and in attendance. The whole gang will be there. But yeah, it should be super fun.
What's the over under on how many beers Justin's gonna drink?
Oh boy, I don't even think you could put a number on that. Man. I will be out of it by the time we get to the post game show. We might have to have somebody from attendance fill in for me.
Yeah, and then so we won't do we're not going to do the post game show at the bar. We're going to pack everything up, and then we're going to scurry back here afterward and set all the equipment right back up, and then do the post game show. Yeah, I mean,
that'll be a process. Yeah, but we did that before. We did that at Gretzky's basement, so we have practice.
Yes, yeah. So this will be the second time we're taking the show on the road, and maybe it might actually be the third if the K-Wings game ends up happening on the 2nd there on that Sunday. So, could be on the lookout for another fun announcement too. But Midwest Coast Brewing, that is the big one.
That's set in stone. It's happening. Yeah. We're there.
Sounds like a fun spring break. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be super cool. So we will be reminding everybody of that each episode from now going forward here. But yeah, you will also be notified about it in the description of every episode we do between now and then too. So.
And if you're not able to make this one for whatever reason, we're going to be doing events like these more often in the future. It's just pretty much our first one, getting it under the belt. But we're really pumped about it because we've been talking about doing something like this for feels like since we started this thing. So.
And I also maybe if we can get this done in time, we might be bringing a few pieces of merch to give away at the event. So that might be pretty cool. Just throwing stuff into the audience a little bit, because I know some of you guys have been asking about CHR merchandise, and we are working on that. That is another little side project of mine too. Yeah, so pumped for Midwest Coast Brewing. Thank you to everybody over there. The GM there is a huge hockey guy, loves, is telling me about where he's going to play pickup on the ODR. So huge hockey guy. So they're pumped about this, we're pumped about this. Even if you don't drink, we've also gotten this too, that if you don't have to go there to drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a live show.
It's a live show. Just come and hang out. You can drink water.
Chill, watch us.
We're not just sitting there drinking the whole time. We're watching the Hawks game and talking about it like we do for all of our live streams. So
yeah. So it should be fun. Lee is also live streaming the game on Thursday against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh boy. The Taylor Hall reunion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mikko Rantanen,
Taylor Hall. That might
future
be
Blackhawk, Mikko Rantanen.
Future Blackhawk. That might be a good segue, though. That's a good segue there. Hawks also play Tampa Bay tomorrow too, so we'll tee up that game a little bit. Basically the same matchups as last week for the Hawks this week.
Yeah, but, deja vu.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, do you guys want to clean up Taylor Hall and Mikko Rantanen a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think we. Oh yeah, you could start, Lee, because I think we need to hear more of your thoughts on this trade. We've kind of given our thoughts. Yeah.
Also, I kind of briefly mentioned it on the post-game show last night, but I've still seen stuff on the internet. I was just watching the Hockey Psychology video, and he was like, and the big losers of this are Chicago. I mean, all you got was the Hawks were not going to be able to get a third-round pick for Taylor Hall. He was at this point, he was playing on the fourth line. He's making $6 million a year. The Blackhawks were never going to be able to get anything that high for him. And so taking part in this deal and taking on that half of Rantanen's salary, A, saved us money, and B, got us a higher pick for Taylor Hall. Now, you could argue that maybe the Blackhawks shouldn't have traded Taylor Hall at all and just kept him, and that he's worth just to have for another year or two. That's a fine argument. But if you were looking to move Taylor Hall, this was the best return we were going to get for him. So I'm okay with it on Kyle Davidson's end. I know a lot of people are just furious with him and will just complain about anything he does, regardless. If he gets up and has Raisin Bran for breakfast, they're going to be he should have had bacon and eggs. So I'm okay with it on our end. Honestly, when I think about the whole trade, everybody kind of won in my mind. I know you're going to say no, Colorado lost a superstar, but everything that I've heard is that Rantanen wanted that Leon Draisaitl money. He wanted like 14 plus. Colorado had the internal cap basically of McKinnon's contract. And so there was no deal that was probably going to get done there. And so you don't want that guy to walk for nothing. And you end up getting a couple of good players and a couple of draft picks. So I think it's a win on their end too. And then obviously, I mean, Carolina. I mean, it's not a win for Avalanche, but they got, I feel like, as much as they possibly could have for a guy that was about to walk. And then obviously Carolina got one of the best players in the world. So good for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're the third party in this trade, so I'm just not really sure what people were expecting. But yeah, according to Elliot Friedman, like Taylor Hall wasn't even really worth a third round pick. The only reason the Hawks even got that is by being brokers in the Rantanen trade. So if anything, Kyle probably got more back than he probably should have gotten, which is kind of saying something. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, we could have got a second. It would have been a late second, this early third. So it's really not much of a difference there. I'd say he probably did as well as he could have done for that regard. So for 2025 Taylor Hall, people acted like this guy just won a Hart Trophy or something. That was 7 years ago. He's missed more games than he's played in as a Blackhawk since he's been here the last 2 years. So yeah, I mean, I think all things considered, it was the right move.
I guess if you want to stick on the, excuse me, the Taylor Hall portion of this deal for a second, I guess, you know, as a Blackhawks show adjacent, Chicago Hockey Radio, I think it's important to mention just like what it meant initially to, you know, you and I kind of touched on this when we, you know, we're talking about the trade, Justin, on Friday in the immediate aftermath, but like, what bringing Taylor Hall in originally meant to the Blackhawks, like what it was supposed to be versus what ended up happening, you know, like this guy, you know, I know he's far removed from that MVP season with the Devils and, you know, but like this also was supposed to be a guy to not just help like mentor Connor Bedard, but also a guy that was supposed to contribute way more offensively. Like if you would put like, I don't know how many points he finished with as a Blackhawk, you know,
28 points in 56 games. So like the dictionary definition of mid, a point every other game.
Yeah. But like if you would put, you know, the over under at 28 points as a career Blackhawk for Taylor Hall when you made that trade, like you would have thought it was way over that. And it didn't really go the way people thought it was going to. I'm sure even Kyle Davidson thought it was going to when he initially made the deal for Hall and Foligno, right?
Yeah, I think tearing the ACL obviously didn't help, but I think off the ice he did kind of do his job. Like Betts even talked about it right in his interview. He said Hall meant a lot to him coming in. If there's a guy for questions or whatever, like Taylor Hall be the first guy he went to. So I think he was a good teammate off the ice, but on the ice, there were moments, right? He had that hat trick against Dallas. That was nice. Scored the Winter Classic, but like he wasn't really the guy for Bedard. He played occasionally with him this season, but not much. And Lee said it yesterday, right? He's kind of been playing 4 or 5 minutes the past month anyway. So it's not like he's been like Betsy's guy, his line mate this season. So it definitely hasn't lived up to what we thought. Foligno's probably been the bigger piece of that deal, which is kind of crazy to think.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Hall and playing with Bedard is like he had the injury obviously last year, but then this season he didn't really play with Bedard at all. Like the only time he played with Bedard was under Richardson, pretty much, you know, like and so I almost don't even count that because the hockey was so bad during that time period where like obviously if you were a forward on this team, you weren't going to be able to do anything. So I mean, there weren't like a ton of opportunities for them, but at the same time, it's like Taylor Hall, obviously, if he was playing like really well this season, he wouldn't be on the fourth line. Like it would be there'd be nothing the coaches could do to keep him down. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where you got to do something at this point. And so I think that was just like, I think it was a solid move from Kyle Davidson, but obviously as Justin pointed out, clearly meant a lot to the locker room. I saw Foligno was like really bummed about it too, because I know that they're obviously good friends going back to Boston. But this is the business.
Yeah, it's a business. Yep, it's tough when you think about the human side of it. Like watching Hall, especially those interviews, like he's definitely a fun guy. Tough to lose him, but it's like 9 goals, 15 assists in 46 games. Like I'm not sure how you're expecting, more than a third round pick there. And by the way, the Hawks got back their own third round pick, which they could use a potential like offer sheet type deal. I know Lee's brought that up a lot on the show. I'd like to see the Hawks go after somebody like I don't know, Wyatt Johnston, for example. It would take a little more than just our third, but the Hawks could use that third round pick again in the future if they wish to. And they do keep one retention slot open, right? Because they didn't retain on Hall, just Rantanen. So one slot open for maybe a potential future move there as well.
So I know this is Hawks hour and not NHL hour, but I figure, that this trade does involve the Hawks. So, wrapping up the Mikko Rantanen discussion here, I feel like is apropos to do it right now. My thought about like tying this into the Blackhawks, I saw our business guy, Tim Tebow, Sully, sent me a meme that was like, I forgot who it was in the meme, but it was like Connor Bedard seeing Mikko Rantanen on the Hawks payroll, but not actually on the Hawks roster. I know that the Blackhawks didn't have a player, like an NHL player at the caliber of Marty Necas to be able to give Colorado. But don't you guys look at this deal, and who knows, maybe Mikko Rantanen wouldn't have waived because he waived a no trade to be able to go to Carolina, or maybe either he waived to go to Carolina or he didn't have Carolina on his no trade list, right? Whatever, it was one of those two. I don't know if he would have necessarily done the same for the Blackhawks, right? But if you're the Blackhawks, it feels like, don't you feel like you could have been more than a broker in this deal, where in fact maybe you could have been the guy landing the player, right?
I do think that they kind of tried to. I saw I've been on Twitter way too much the past couple days, especially since that trade. But I did see something that it was between the Blackhawks or Carolina for him, and I think he preferred Carolina, obviously, just because of where the Blackhawks are at right now. I really don't know what they could have done. I feel like the discussion's over after, you don't have Necas or a player of that caliber. How can you compete then?
And here's the thing, I wouldn't necessarily, I might be being delusional here, but I wouldn't necessarily rule out the Hawks come free agency time. If the Hurricanes aren't able to make out a deal, maybe the Hawks are next in the negotiation table there. If he wins a cup with Carolina, maybe he'll remember the Hawks retaining half of his salary there. Maybe I'm being delusional, but I do think that's something to think about, right? The Hawks are one of the only teams you think would be able to afford him $14+ billion in free agency.
It's true. I don't know why Carolina would make that move if they're not confident they're going to get a deal done with them. That, I think that would be a crazy rental. That would be an expensive rental.
Do you think you win a cup though?
Is there a possibility of that? They moved on from Necas and Drury, and they're just this year let's see it, and they're okay with that.
So I brought this up on my show today. So Carolina has acquired Jake Gensel and Mikko Rantanen back-to-back. This isn't a deadline deal because we're 6 weeks out from the deadline, but it's more or less, mid-season deal. So they've acquired Jake Gensel and Mikko Rantanen both mid-season. They have given up exactly 0 first-round picks to do so and 0 of their top 4 prospects to do so. They didn't give up Jackson Blake. They didn't give up Bradley Nadeau. They didn't give up Scott Morrow. They didn't give up, I don't know who else their top 4 prospects are. Felix Unger-Sorum, they didn't give up. They didn't give up any of those dudes to be able to do this. So I think if Carolina, and here's another point that I will make, this is probably the highest profile, surefire top 10. I know the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup before, but that was with a really young Eric Stahl, an incredibly hot run by a rookie goaltender at the time, Cam Ward, former Blackhawk. Who was their most dynamic offensive player at the time? It was Eric Stahl, a literal 19-year-old Eric Stahl and an aging Rod Brind'Amour, right?
Was Francis on that team? I think he may have been.
Yeah, but he was old too at the time. You know what I mean? It wasn't in his prime.
On paper, this is the best team they've ever had, is what you're saying.
And on paper,
this is the best player.
He's the best player they've ever had too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I do think that they're going to make a real genuine run. They have the rest of the season to try and get a contract done with him. And if they somehow ink him to a long-term extension, this deal's a fleece. I texted you boys. I texted you boys as soon as that trade happened. I was Seth Jarvis has to be going back in this deal, right? And I know you could argue Necas is a better player, I guess, but if you're ranking National Hockey League players, where do you put Marty Necas? It's not top 30 for me. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
he's having a hell of a season though, to be fair.
But to be fair, is he top 30 to you, Justin? Is he a top 30 guy? No.
I don't know if he's established himself yet, but the potential could be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not top 10, top 5. Like,
No.
What were the Avs supposed to do in that situation, though? You know,
I think they could have gotten Natchez and Jarvis. Is that crazy to say?
But how do you not get like one of the young kids? Like Jackson Blake has been like lighting the world on fire. Bradley Nadeau has been lighting the American Hockey League
Just
on
beat
fire.
the Ice Hogs in overtime the other night. He's good.
He is good. He's real good. You know, like how do you not get that kid back? Like how do you not get some of these players back? You get or even a first round pick.
Drury, the best you could have done after that.
You couldn't even throw a condition on that second round pick you got that says, hey, if you re-sign Mikko Rantanen, that this second round pick turns into a first round pick. Like you can't even do that if you're Chris McFarland. Like, what are you like? This is Mikko Rantanen we're talking about here.
I would assume that they probably did, but I feel like the bargaining power was all in favor of Carolina. If a team is like genuinely shopping a top 10 NHL superstar, it's because they're not going to be able to make it work with them, you know? So like how can the Avs play hardball with that? You know, like how are they going to be like, no, we need more, but they're like, okay, or just let him walk then. Like that's what Carolina was probably saying. They were like, no, if you don't accept this, then have fun letting him walk for nothing. We'll sign him for $14 million next year. You know, like I would assume that Colorado did try to get more than what they got, but I don't know. It just seemed like a pretty brutal position. It was either that or sign him, which they did not want to do. So,
and I have a point on that too, and then I want to like make one more point about Carolina is if you're Colorado, like I understand the idea of having an internal budget, right? Like nobody's going to fall underneath, or everybody's going to fall underneath Nathan MacKinnon. 2 points to that. One, if the difference is like $1 million or $1.5 million bucks, like, you know, what's McKinnon's deal? It's like 12.5.
12.6.
I think 12.6. Yeah.
So, okay, if we're talking
Brandon should be 12.5.
But in real, okay, but like should be in the NHL is so wrong to me. Like Mikko Rantanen should be making $14 million a year.
Oh yeah, based on the cap, no, but if they're going off the McKinnon thing, I'd say should
Even
have
just
making
be
that
on
same.
worth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the max a player can make is 20% of the cap, which is close to $20 million. Like what's Connor McDavid? Like Connor McDavid should be making $20 million a year.
Yeah.
Like,
so Rantanen could be making 50.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying. Like we value these players as like numbers. Like Seth Jones is probably, you know, maybe he's not a $9.5 million player, but he's
seven or
eight, dude. Like he's not a $4 million player. It's because of how we are forced to think about these guys that like we think about things like this, you know. But Mikko Rantanen is a $14 million player. Absolutely, he is. You know?
Also, I heard that Colorado have like already said that it doesn't apply to Cale Makar. Like they're gonna extend Cale Makar more.
That was my other point.
So what's the logic there? Why is that apply to Makar but not Rantanen? Like,
well, Makar,
McKinnon's got to be pissed about that.
Makar is the best defenseman of all time. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Quinn Hughes might have something to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know, those two switch off every night as far as being the best defenseman in the
world.
That
is so true. That is so true. Those two are going to be fighting for the Norris for the next decade plus. Nobody else is going to win it. Yeah.
You know, Rantanen's like a top 10 player, but he's not a top 5 player. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was the compliment to McKinnon. Now he's a star. Now he's the top guy, right, in Carolina land. So I'm interested to see how that works out, right?
Yeah, but like, don't you guys think it's crazy that we're talking about them like trading off of this guy over like $1.5 million a season? Like that to me is like, you know, I think the NHL is in a good place. We talked about Gary Bettman leaving on the NHL Hour Friday show. You know, and I think hockey's in a lot better of a spot than it was even like 10 or 15 years ago. You know, 6.6 projected revenue, 6.6 billion, I should say, projected revenue this year. But like, even still, like if you're having to deal a top 10 player in the league because of $1.5 million like that's where the NHL has failed, you know?
I was gonna say, when was the last time something like that's happened? Has something like that happened before in modern times? It is kind of wild. That's that type of trade like that today.
Because of money. Like Matthew Tkachuk was the last big deal like this, but like it was because he just didn't want to be in Calgary anymore. Like he wanted to
it's a little different, the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that's not on the NA. Like it's on Colorado. Like if you didn't want to pay him, that's their fault. You can't like blame what goes on in like the rest of the league. You know, pay your guy. Like if he's a top 10 superstar, like you cannot be, you know,
nickel and diming these
nickel
guys.
and diming this superstar, especially like you're telling me they couldn't have done something in like the $13 million range. Like would he have bid on that, or was he like firm 14 plus?
Here's the crazy thing. Like we've heard a report that Avs were offering him like 11.8 million. It's like
That's
it sounds
crazy.
like they weren't even close.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. It's not like this was like it's like more than $1 million off there. So it's hard to negotiate with that, right?
I guess, but like, dude, if I'm Chris McFarland, like I know you run the risk of becoming like the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Where you're paying all these guys like way more money and then you're left trying to like scrape by on entry-level contracts.
Here's the difference though. Those guys have already won. The Leafs guys haven't won yet. These guys have proven themselves come playoff time.
So then why do you not resign? Like give him whatever he wants,
It was the same deal with the Kane Tays stuff. Like, yeah, should they probably make it at that stage? Probably not, but they won 3 cups in 6 years. So it's like, I guess 2 at that time because that was 2014. But came back to bite them later, but they already have won those cups, whereas the Leafs guys, right, haven't yet.
And frankly, like, you better use this extra cap space, right, that you're gaining, because that is the other thing that you get, right? So you get Natchez, which is a fine player. You get Drury, which is useful in your bottom 6. I think they want him to take like that third line center role. You get a second and a fourth round pick back. So that's one asset or 2 assets that you have to use in order to acquire other NHL talent.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like you're gaining cap space. You know what I'm saying?
You need to make another move, right?
You have to. Otherwise,
or you just don't care about winning again.
Yes. Otherwise, you are accepting your fate that you are a significantly worse hockey team now.
Yeah.
Without Mikko Rantanen on your club.
Exactly. Getting rid of Mikko Rantanen is you're making yourself worse. So unless you try to do something else to close that gap, you're kind of just like giving up.
I'm sure Kevin Weeks keep posting pictures of Pittsburgh bridges in the meantime, trying to stir that Crosby rumor there. That seems like a bunch of nonsense now.
That's crazy. It is a bunch of don't you think? Like he's not,
No,
he
just extended there. He's staying there. He's staying in Pittsburgh land. Yeah.
It's a dumpster fire.
Seriously, they are a dumpster fire.
That to me though would be like the move that would actually make this worth it.
Oh yeah.
Like if you could actually acquire Sidney Crosby, that would
That'd be insane.
Then I'd be like, all right, Crosby, Natchez, like, all right.
Didn't Saravalli say in 48 hours there's going to be a bigger move coming? I'm pretty sure it's been 48 hours and nothing has happened. So what was that all about?
I think the quote was from Saravalli that it wasn't in 48 hours. It was that wasn't the Rantanen trade wasn't the biggest thing on the table in the last 48 hours.
Oh, okay. I
Meaning
misunderstood
there were like
that.
other things brewing that were also equally as big, if not bigger, than that deal.
Okay, probably like JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Connor McDavid coming to the Blackhawks. But.
Well, and Elliot Friedman also said that the Hurricanes were about to acquire Elias Pettersson before getting Rantanen to not JT Miller. Remember, we had been talking about Miller to the Hurricanes, but apparently Friedman said that it was actually Elias Pettersson that they were going to go get before getting Rantanen, but obviously that's not going to happen now. So,
oh Jesus, I was just about to. I don't know. Do we want to keep doing this?
It's funny that the second Elias Pettersson made his debut in Vancouver recently too.
That is so
it's
funny.
Like talking to JT Miller, sir, a second Elias Pettersson has arrived in Vancouver.
Well, now I'm hearing all this stuff about Pettersson to Buffalo, and like a trade between those two teams like does kind of make sense to me, because I feel like the Vancouver issue is that this core isn't good enough, so they might need to, reshuffle the deck a little bit and try to get some more elite young players, whereas Buffalo just needs NHL legit guys now. Well, they needed it months ago, but I don't know, like a trade there could make sense. I just like Vancouver is just like feels like that like awkward guy just sitting on the edge of the party, just kind of like nodding his head, just watching everyone else have fun. That's what Vancouver is. They're like, it's weird. It's like, do something. But yeah, I there's not a whole lot of teams now. Like the more time that goes by, the less people they have to deal with. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. That's NHL segment in Hawks Hour for everyone.
Yeah, we should probably get back to the Hawks here, right?
So no, I have one last point about this Mikko Rantanen deal is like the Hurricanes could lose in the first. Like I think they're just as likely to like go to the conference final or even the Stanley Cup final as you are to
boom or bust.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if they play the New Jersey Devils in the first round, like a really good, and that's the problem with the way the playoff structure is set up. Like especially with the 2-3 divisional matchups every
Playing
time.
the same teams all the time.
Well, yeah, but like a good team good teams are out in the first round every year.
Yeah.
Bring back the conference 1v8.
Yep.
Dude, because the regular season means nothing unless you
Win the division.
Not even, yeah. No, not even winning the division. It's almost winning the conference because you can win your division, and then someone else from the other division in your conference can have more points than you, and then you can play that first wild card team that could be a legit squad. Like it literally means nothing unless you have the first seed in the conference or the 8th seed.
Yeah, like the seeding means less and less. Like, what are we even playing for here? What are these 82 games all about? Just to see Kings versus Oilers for the 4th year in a row, right?
It's just like
the Oilers are actually leading the Pacific right now.
Ooh, maybe not. Yeah.
That's a big thing for Oilers fans, just leading the Pacific. I don't mean no, whatever, but
yeah, it is. No, I don't know how many times we can call for going back to the 1 versus 8, but I don't know why they do it. It's frustrating to me that we hear more talks about like expanding the playoffs than like going back to that format. Like that format was so good. And as I was putting together that little Instagram post for the 2010 Blackhawks run of just like different goals. And so I was just looking at like all the games in the series and the bracket from that year. And dude, it's just so much better. Like after you win the first round, the highest seed plays the lowest seed even in the second round. Like it's perfect. Like why?
The teams get better as you go along. That's the way it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you play the best team in the first round, then it gets easier. It's like, what? This is the playoffs for crying out loud. It should build on each other. And that's how it used to work out. I got super nostalgic rewatched those goals, by the way, so thanks for that. That was a nice way to spend that Saturday, like reminiscing on the good old days.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do more of that, to be honest.
Yeah,
do one for all those playoff runs, right? Yeah,
seriously.
We could also do them for like individual players, like Patrick Kane's biggest goals.
Oh yeah,
it's so fun to put together because I literally just watched all the goals from that playoff run like 3 times, and it was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be like taking these. I was just kind of enjoying it, honestly. But
all right, anything else from that trade? No, nothing.
I'd say if there's one thing, this trade allowed us to, it opened up a roster spot, right, to transition. It did allow us to call up somebody like Landon Slager, right? We will be seeing him on this road trip here. I'm excited about that. 25 points, 39 games at Rockford this season. Been one of their better, more consistent players. I was really impressed with him last season during a 16-game stint with the Hawks. I thought he was ready to play in the NHL this season. If you've been watching this show, I've wanted him on this team for a while now. So good to see that. This roster gets even younger. 9 under 23 players in the roster now. We started the season with the 5th oldest roster in the league, and I think by the time we end the season, we're going to be one of the youngest. So, that's the way it should be. So I'm really excited that we're seeing the future kind of come together here the rest of the season.
I think the effort and the quality is just going to be so much better for the rest of the season because now that it's just all young players, it's like
the kids want it.
The kids want it because they have to have it. Like they're not aged veterans that have had entire careers in the league. Like they might not even make the league, so they have to do everything they can. And so I think the effort you're going to be seeing from a Landon Slager on the 4th line is going to be leaps and bounds more so than Maroons, Halls, guys like that.
I mean, it better be, otherwise back down to Rockford you go.
Yeah, that too. They don't have the bag, right? They're trying to make the bag.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So is Slaggert poised to draw in tomorrow against the Bolts? Is that what it's looking like?
Yeah, it sounds like it. They said they expect to see him on this road trip here. So we'll see who draws out there. But yeah, that does seem to be the plan.
And there was no practice today, right? So we don't have
no plan. They're going to Tampa today. Yeah, so nothing changing there. We'll hear more tomorrow, I'm sure, about that.
Yeah. Chicago now carrying 13 forwards on its roster as they head on their 3-game road trip, opening up. So Tampa and then Carolina and then back to Florida to play the Florida Panthers. So kind of a goofy travel schedule there.
Well, I think they were saying on the broadcast that 8 of our next 10 games are all on the road, and then there's like a break in between them for the 4 nations. So after this massive homestand, we're going to be on the road for a while. So
I feel like we've seen that a lot this season where it's like a bunch of games at home followed by a bunch of games on the road. There seems to be like absolutely zero balance of the Hawks schedule this year. Maybe that's just me, but that does seem kind of odd to me. Yeah.
It feels like it's like 3 games on the road, 3 games at home, 3 games on the road. Yeah.
it's probably so much easier for scheduling to do it like that, though, and not just for the Blackhawks, but then like for everything that goes on at the United Center, like Bulls and then the concerts and all that kind of stuff. It's like if you have one team out for like a week and a half, it's so much easier to schedule stuff ahead of time. So I would assume like that's probably why it's like this. It's not somebody just like, yeah, we're just going to have these guys be gone for 2 months just for fun,
Yeah, you're probably right about that. But I think unless you guys do you guys want to tee up the games coming up or recap some of the games this past weekend a little bit before we get into this Davidson presser? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys have anything more from, maybe the game Friday against Lightning, another blown lead, 3-1. Blackhawks had a lead. It was like the kids are all right here so far. And then before you know it, they hawked it away and, lost 4-3 in overtime off the stick at Kucherov. I don't know if you got, last night was like really brutal for me, but I don't know what you guys have cleanup wise.
The Hawks 2-0 it away. But yeah, I think my main takeaway from this past weekend is these losses are a lot more tolerable when the kids are cooking, right? Like it still sucks. You hate to lose, but like at this stage of the rebuild, it's expected. But it's like when you're getting production from guys like Frank Nazar, we could talk a lot more about Frank Nazar. 4-game point streak, right? 5 games during that stretch. You could argue he's been the most impressive Hawk during that time, even more so than Bedsy, who's been up and down, but he's still getting the points, which is good to see. But I just think in general, Del Mastro is another guy. Like the 2 games since his call-up, he's been good. Got his first point last night, which is good to see. I just think when the kids are cooking, it's just so much more fun to watch, and I can take games like that, versus early season when it's like our goals are coming from the vets, and it's like we were playing this defensive structure. At least now it's like we're scoring goals and producing. It's good to see. It's more fun to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously you don't want, these young guys blowing leads and like getting into bad habits like that. But
you learn, right?
Yeah, but as you just pointed out, like it's night and day how it feels after a loss now versus, a couple months ago when we were under Richardson. It was just like the most boring hockey in the world. No young players, just like bashing our heads into a wall. Every single game, no matter if we win or lose now, it's like there's so many positives to take out from it because like one of these young guys is doing something good. So I'm okay with the tank losses where we score 3 goals and it's all, players under the age of 22.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think there's something to say for that though. Like, yeah, the Hawks do need to get better in regards to the blowing lead stuff because that has been gotten kind of out of hand, right? And when we're not blowing leads, we're not starting games at time and trying to claw back and then get edged. So that's something to work on. But again, when it's a young roster, like there's going to be a lot of games like that. It's character building moments you learn from them. I think it's a necessary kind of thing to go through for a young team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You guys are getting too used to losing.
Well, we've been doing it for a couple years, so we're pretty good at it at this point.
Yeah, you can thank the team for that, right? But I think that's another takeaway here. I think I'm okay with that kind of mentality the rest of this season, but not next season, all right? We brought this up before, and I think KD's kind of, I'm sure that's a thought process for him as well. Like, I think next season, starting next year, that's got to be a bit of a different mentality there, right? Got to start seeing some actual progression, right? Coming out of this thing and not tolerating losses. But I think for the rest of this season, I think that's, not a horrible thought process. But maybe that's loser talk for me.
No, I mean, for what we dealt with for the first couple months under Luke Richardson, like that was so bad that now this feels like we're on a 13-game win streak, like it feels like
it's night and day.
Yeah.
It's night and day. Like the games are more fun to watch, right? It's like I'm not trying to bash my head against the wall watching this dump and chase hockey, right? Even when we're losing, they're fun games and the kids are cooking. And that's what I care about. I'm just watching the young players. Like I'm kind of tuning out when guys like Eli Mikheyev are out there, right? So I'm invested in the future of this team. That's what I care about.
Bro, I mean, we went from, like I'm actually excited. Like every time the Blackhawks play, I'm actually excited. Like there were live streams we were doing in the Richardson era where I was just like, I'm not ready for this because I'm not excited for this game at all because I was not pumped to see Connor Bedard playing every night with Jason Dickinson and Ilya Mikheyev. But now that he's playing with Bertuzzi and Nazar every night, it's like dude, what are they gonna do tonight? Like, I'm just so excited to watch. So, I think that's important, not just for us, but for fans too. Like, I think we see it a little bit in attendance too. Is like, you got to give people something they're excited to watch.
Shipping out the unks. That's going to continue, right? This roster's only going to get younger. There's going to be more moves to follow the Hall one, right? Guys like, Donato, etc., right? So we're going to see more players as college season ends, right? Guys like more Renzel, etc., more prospects. So it's only going to get better from here for that regard. Yeah.
Do we want to tee up Tampa, or do we want to get into KD press conference?
Let's tee up Tampa.
Okay.
We get the Bolts tomorrow. Second time in 4 days that the Hawks will play the Bolts. In between, both teams had a loss. Tampa lost 2-0 at Little Caesars to the Red Wings on Saturday, and obviously the Hawks getting doubled up last night to the Wild. But
is Vasilevsky starting?
We won't know that until tomorrow morning.
Well, if he's starting, you could already circle a result there. It's an L, right? I think the only reason we had a chance that game is because Johansson was in that. They outshot us 40-20, and we almost won that game. So if Vasilevsky's in that away, yeah, good luck there. I think we know the result already.
Yeah, unfortunate but true.
Yeah. To me, it's about the effort. You can't come out with the same effort that you did through 40 minutes after the Wild game. Like, I genuinely don't know what was said in the locker room. Maybe nothing needed to be said, because I think everybody in the building was aware of how poorly things were going through 40 for the Hawks yesterday. Maybe nobody had to say anything. Maybe Nick Foligno's like, hey, I need to, put on an Oscar-worthy performance, trying to, like, stir up the energy in this building a little bit with you guys. But, the Hawks came out a lot better, but it's like,
You got to start the game like that,
yeah.
right? That's the thought, right?
Yeah.
Against Tampa on Tuesday. They've had a day off here to kind of reset, morning skates, so they should be ready to go on Tuesday.
Yeah, if they lose and just get Vasilevsky, that's okay. Like, the effort's got to be there can we get it for at least 2 periods? Like, I'm not even asking for all 3, but just, more than what we saw last night would be awesome. And then also it'll be interesting to see kind of what Sorensen does with the lines, if he's going to keep everything as is, because I know he shuffled them.
Where does Slager try? And how does that work out? I'd like to see him with Doc. I think that'd be a pretty good dog line there.
Yeah, right. Maybe Reichel on there too.
Yeah, he's a good PK guy too, good defensive player in the bottom 6. So I think he would draw him pretty nicely there from that regard. Well, the Hawks do have goaltending too, right? Probably go back to Soda. I don't think Mrazek had a bad game last night, but I think maybe Soda Tuesday, Mrazek Thursday, because Mrazek always plays well against his former Canes, right? So I think that would probably be the move. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I'm gonna hopefully he keeps Del Mastro and Allen together. Just to let them keep playing. I know we've got a clip of Del Mastro, right? Do we want to listen to that?
Yeah, sure. He talks about building chemistry. Yeah.
Compared to when you came up last year, is the number of guys that you played with in Rockford this time around maybe help you be a little bit more comfortable?
Yeah. I was talking about that with Panger earlier. A lot of more familiar faces with the guys that, kind of came up from Rockford, or guys I've seen in the last, couple of years, kind of building relationships. So it's a lot easier to kind of come up and just feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, I think an important thing too is to just come in and obviously there's always going to be pressure because the kid wants to make it in the NHL and this is his first stint this season. But I don't know, there's so many more young kids on this team that it's not just familiar faces and comfortability. It's don't feel pressured or scared to make plays. It's all your boys. Go out there and play your game. Don't be worried about messing up. And I think we saw it on that goal. That was a sweet move, and that was a confident move, to do the little toe jag and
yeah, oh yeah.
So
that was a veteran move, right? Feels like he's been here. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think that's the most important thing, more so than just chemistry. I feel like people love just be oh, you've played with this guy before. I think it's less about that and more about guys being in similar spots as you in the locker room.
Yeah, but at the same time, I can't really blame the kids for that mindset too of being scared to make mistakes against Stent out the Rockford, because that has happened, right, to guys like Kevin Kaiser, etc. Right, so I don't blame them, but it's I think you got to let them just play hockey, right, and just grow and develop and make those mistakes, because you become better as a result as a young player, right? So that's where you see them the best come out of your game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and the other part about it too is like, who has no value on your blue line right now in a trade? TJ Brody. But who could potentially have value? Like, we've talked about it a little bit when, like not all of these defensemen are going to play, be full-time Blackhawks for the next decade, right? Not all of Rinzel and Del Mastro and Allen and Crevier and Korchinski and Matthew Shape. No, I'm just kidding. But not all those guys are going to be. Not all those guys are going to be full-time NHLers, right? So you're trying to, figure out who you like and who you don't, because this is the thing about like NHL scouting departments and NHL development staff. Like they know if you can play or not.
Yeah.
Like they know if you can play or not. Like where maybe. The three of us, like, we're not around the team in Rockford every day. We're not around the Blackhawks every day. We're not, like...
At practice,
like, seeing these kids, like, they know. Like, yeah, there's going to be some guys that are late bloomers, guys that, their development, takes a curve for the better here later on. But, like, between the three of us and everybody listening, like, they know if Del Mastro can play or not, and maybe the answer is he probably can't, like maybe the answer is he's not an NHLer full time for the Black. Like maybe he is, maybe I'm wrong, but like, maybe what they're trying to do is like get this guy an honest look at the NHL. So that way, like a team like Utah or a team like, insert team that could use some defensive depth here. Like, I don't know. Right.
Well, dude, I think to your point, like there's a chance that all these guys are NHL players, but the reality is well, hold on,
there's not room enough for all of them.
You've got so many of them that like not all these guys are for sure. Not all these guys are going to be top pairing guys, and so it's like when you're talking about you only have 3 deep pairings. Like how many defensemen can you have? So
I'm just saying that there's like a depth chart. You know what I mean? Like there is a depth chart of like, and not just like where they stand right now, but like where they stand in the future too. You know what I mean? Like Lev Shenov is probably pretty high on a depth chart where maybe he's not even a full-time NHLer next season, but which he probably should be. But you get what I'm saying here. That there is like a hierarchy and a depth chart, and maybe they don't even really believe in Nolan Allen, right? But they're playing him this whole season in the hopes that somebody looks at him and is like, oh yeah, I'd take him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's about upping value, right? And, a lot of these guys, right? You can use the potential like future trades for established assets, right? So it doesn't hurt to play these guys, see what they got. And teams will be watching that and take that into account for sure.
But Del Mastro looks good. Like a lot of these kids, like, and when I say like they're not NHLers versus they are NHLers, like when I say that, like the margin is so thin, you know what I mean? That like the difference between like a guy in the AHL and a guy in the NHL, like it may be like 1 or 2%. Like it's not like it's this enormous gap that it's like, us versus like
it's the smallest it's ever been in today's game, right?
Yeah. Also, it's not even really like a black and white statement. Like again, there's so many guys.
Every prospect is different.
Well, no, but there's also so many guys that are like that bounce in between the NHL and the AHL. So it's like when you say like
that might be a fringe guy.
Yeah, like there's a massive conglomerate of players that are NHL players, but they spend their whole careers going back and forth.
Yeah, seems like Isaac Phillips, for Blackhawks legend, is going to be one of those guys, just constantly packing his suitcase, going up and down, right? Wyatt Kaiser seems to be that guy now for the Hawks, yeah.
But like his Wyatt Kaiser, when you're winning the Stanley Cup, if you close your eyes and you're picturing the Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup.
I don't think he's going to be there.
Do you think Wyatt Kaiser is in the line? No.
I also I have not been high on Wyatt Kaiser at all.
I've hired Allen and even Del Mastro. The 2 games I've seen from him, I've seen more out of him than Kaiser all season.
Yep.
Crevier too. Yeah, he's been actually quietly for a 7th round pick. He may have been the last pick in his draft. Don't quote me on that. Like he looks like he could be a legit like 7th D for us or something like that. 3rd pair guy, which I think for a 7th round pick is pretty impressive.
I think he could be higher than that. Like you just look at like how all the abilities he's had. Like he's so big, he can skate pretty well for how big he is. It's just I feel like it's just going to be about developing like the little things and the instincts and making better decisions and stuff like that. But I feel like he's got so many of the intangibles. Like his shot is insane. He's got a bomb on him. Yeah, I think if he just starts getting more physical and just through reps and time in the league, I think he could easily be an NHL player.
The Hawks may have found Chara on Wish there.
Dude, literally.
6'8", not far off. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah.
That's a big.
Well, Wish.
We got Chara at home here.
Chara at home could mean anything, you know. Like you could say that about me because I'm over 6 feet tall. So
All right, settle down. You just want.
Are you really?
Just like you wanting the listeners to know that you're over 6 feet tall.
I mean, I was there the past month. I mean, I feel like we're around the same height. I'm like either 5'11" or 6 foot. I'm like in that weird range where I'm like either one or the other. So I'm not really sure about that.
I promise you, I'm over 6 feet tall.
All right, if you say so.
Okay.
All right,
That was Lee height talk for you guys.
So are the keys to success tomorrow against the Bolts just showing up on time and trying to put it together for at least 40 of the 60 minutes?
I think my key to success is just put the damn puck on that dude. Like I've been looking at the shots the last few games. The Hawks have struggled to even get 20 shots most games. When was the last time they've had 30? Like I think if you could probably count on one or two hands the amount of times they've had 30 shots this season. It's always like the 20 to 25 range. Put 25 on net. That's a reasonable number to ask for, right? Even if there's a difference between like quality versus quantity. Just wherever you are, just put the damn puck in. I don't think that's a lot to ask for, honestly.
And also, I feel like last night was like a low amount of shots for the opposing team. It feels like every single night the other team's putting up 35 plus on us. So it's like we gotta do something about that. I think most of the shot differential thing is about puck possession, to be honest with you. Like I don't know if throwing a million pucks at the net is gonna solve all of our problems. But yeah, I mean 5 shots through 2 periods of hockey is literally unacceptable. So they've got to do something about that. I think the keys to success are a full effort. Like at least look competitive. Don't be completely sleeping for 2 periods of hockey.
Yeah, because it must be said, like those first 40 minutes, like it's easy to forget about it, how that third period went. But those first 40 minutes, 2 periods last night, maybe the worst hockey we've seen out of the Hawks this season. I'd say the only thing worse maybe in that second period against the Red Wings a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that, like that was just awful. So yeah, I can't afford that for 2/3 of the game, right? Yeah.
No, not at all. You got to start on time. You know. Oh, we should mention Colton Dock got his first NHL goal too on Friday.
That's right. Yeah. The Colton Dock, the better Dock brother confirmed, right?
Yeah, but like you know how he scored that goal was like going to the net and like being in, and I think it like went off of somebody before the puck like landed right in front of him and he's like, ooh,
drive to
puck.
the net.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, go to the net, bodies in front, like create havoc in front of
be assertive, aggressive.
Whether it's Vasilevsky or Johansson, you know what I mean? Like if it's Johansson, it's like, okay, you've shown you can score a couple of goals on him without even really, doing the maximum effort you can do, right? And if it's Vasilevsky, it's like, okay, this is one of the best goalies in the world. The only way you're going to score goals is by creating that havoc, right?
It also doesn't matter what kind of player you are, who it is. Like just go to the net, go to the dirty areas.
Go to the net.
Like
anyone could do that.
Anyone can do it. It does not matter who it is.
No, Betsy was doing it the other night. He almost had a tip-in goal, but his damn Sherwood stick broke. He's got to switch manufacturers there now. I'm just kidding. I think he broke like 2 sticks last night, man.
Can we hear this clip from Sorensen just on the loss to the Wild last night?
As you have more and more young guys on this team, even when you lose, and even if it's maybe not the game that is what you'd like to see, what can they learn from that so that it still has benefit long term?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think that's the key, right? You got to learn from that. This league is tough, right? Like it's a hard league to play in, especially as a young player, and you got to find your opportunities to create offense, but you also got to find your shifts where you got to realize that there's not much going on. I just got to play shifts off, right? Kind of, especially as a D-man, you got to advance pucks and just keep it efficient that way, and then obviously defend hard, right? And I think that sometimes as young players could be a learning lesson, and then today it was for a lot of them, right?
Yeah. I mean, You know, like I hear this guy talk, and I'm just like, yeah, you're not here past April.
You're not that guy. Yeah, he's a fill-in guy till like you said, and we'll get a real coach, David Carlton.
Will he go back to being Rockford's coach after this season?
I don't think so. He's probably done. He probably has to go elsewhere, right? I mean, that doesn't happen often, right? Where you promote a guy for interim and then send him back. I mean, when King was named coach, right? He's the assistant now, so he at least kept a job within the organization. But unless they're planning on sorts of being an assistant or something, I think he's probably not going back down, right?
They're not re-signing him. I told you this the moment they hired him. Like, this is their way of firing him. This is like, you know, Tassos insider here. Like, this this guy was promoted because you're not going to send him back down to Rockford. Like, that's a weird thing to do. Like, maybe they do and I look like an idiot, but you know, like, I've been told that they won't be bringing him back and that this is their way to, like, it's a firing by promotion.
At least he's putting some good tape out there, and I you know, he could probably land in an assistant role.
Yeah, with
somewhere.
the Chicago Mission under 14 AAA team.
Dude, it's better. It's
not that bad.
It's been better than Richardson. Like, you know, like at the very least.
That is saying a lot too. That, I mean, Richardson is a guy who had 1,400 games in the NHL, and this like generated spawned in development coach from Sweden has put together better games than him.
Yeah, maybe we weren't lying when there was like the Friday mailbag questions and I asked what we could do if we were the coaches, and Tassos said, I don't remember what you said, Tassos. You didn't say you could have them in a wild card spot, but you said,
but could do better than Richardson. I don't think that's totally out there to say.
I think you might have been right. You know,
the Swords at Cody's proven it.
Yeah, no, I you know, not to like overblow my, you know,
no,
but I also not to like, you know,
he's gonna talk about his track record right now.
No, I'm just saying, I have a little bit of a record of getting the most out
coaching the Greek teams over there.
Yeah, you know, we get the most out of a pretty, you know, underdog squad. I would say it's all about just like line like. That's the biggest thing to me, you know, and it seems like, you know, they've kind of figured it out a little bit with like Bedard, Nazar, Bertuzzi, you know, like that is going to be like, I watch other shows about other teams, right? You know, and like who guys play with is going to become such a bigger part of the discussion we have on the show. Like as the team gets better, as these quote unquote, as Lee says, real Blackhawks start to establish themselves as full-time National Hockey Leaguers. Like Nazar is now, I think by all accounts, a full-time NHLer. You know, like he has no business going back down to Rockford anymore, but like his spot in the lineup is going to be a much discussed thing about us or with us. Like if he plays with Bedard, if he plays without Bedard, if he's second line, if he's third line, like if he's first power play, if he's second power play,
if he's a winger, if he's a center, right?
Yes. Like those are all going to be important discussions for us going forward here.
It's a good point because it's not even just about is this guy an NHL or is this guy going to be a legit player for the Blackhawks? It's who plays well together and what are their roles, because then that's how you decide what else this team needs going forward. Like,
and that helps you. Who can you rule out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree. I think that's going to be a more increasing part of our show and what we talk about as you get more and more of these real Blackhawks into the lineup, which is I think that's good. That's a better conversation to have than, you know, talking about drafting in October. So I'm excited for that.
For sure. Future me, the only thing I'm going to remember from the Anders Sorts at era Blackhawks is he's the first Swedish coach. I feel like that's his entire personality. But anyway,
laid back, you know, not a real coaching style, you know.
Looks like Swedish Nick Foligno. Yeah.
Dude, he couldn't even get me amped up to go to the grocery store, man. Like,
dude, I don't know if he's as bad as Jeremy Colleton, though. Jeremy Colleton.
Oh, God. No one's as bad as Jeremy Colleton.
No, you know what?
No. Hearing that guy talk was the most, well, you know. So I think we need to be a little better down low, you know, and I think we'll be better going forward.
Did I tell you guys that I was coaching Jeremy Colleton's son here? The season, season he got fired. So I coached his kid for half the season, and then Colleton was fired, and then there was one day that his kid wasn't on the team anymore. And
followers of Beyond Beams, though, that's what started that account in the first place, is I wanted that guy fired.
That's pretty funny. That's good lore. Dude, there was nothing. I mean, he was a cool guy. I just thought he was the most monotone. Like he was the least inspiring talker. I think I've ever heard.
He's a smart guy. He's a good analytic guy, just not a head coach. He's a good like assistant, which I think he is now at the Devils. I want to say. So
really nice human being too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
No,
really
I don't have
nice
anything
human
bad to
being.
say about him as a person. Just wasn't head coach Hawks material.
Yeah, same thing with Richardson. Like Richardson
same
seemed
deal.
like an awesome guy, and he had like a pretty good personality. He's just like not.
Could be like a great assistant. Yeah, but not, I don't know about head coach. Yeah, maybe with a different system, just not the Hawks. But anyway, I think we've talked about this a lot in the show. Like Davidson doesn't really give a lot of pressers, right? Well, he did today, a little midseason check-in. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. Nothing on the Hawks website or anything. You can only find the quotes and stuff on Twitter. So
Dude,
very
why
very transparent from the Blackhawks organization.
Did
there.
anybody have a fucking cellular device? Like I'm seeing videos of fucking drones and stuff flying, but I can't see a video of our general manager giving his mid-season presser. Like,
Did you check CHSN?
I did. I couldn't
it
find
wasn't
it.
there?
Also, CHSN trying to navigate like that user interface is so poorly designed. It's like atrocious. They have like a Reels tag thing on there, but then you have to like there's no thing to just look up like videos. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the app and look up Blackhawks coverage and then swipe through Blackhawks coverage. It's atrocious. And
So if we're missing something here, just to not, I know you could go on forever
I
about
was
CHSN.
about to say one more thing about CHSN. When you're on the app, they send you this pop-up literally every time you go on that says, "Do you like this app?" And I say no every single time. Anyway, go on.
So I think when the season's over, sorry to cut you out, Tassos. I think when the season's over, we should like clip an entire YouTube compilation video of Lee ranting about CHSN.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be our most
3.5
viewed video.
hours long.
Yeah.
Anyway, make your point.
No, I think it's kind of shocking that most times GMs speak to their or speak to the media. The teams make it available live on their websites. Like that is the NHL league standard.
Yeah.
Bucks used to do that. I don't know what happened.
But like almost every single team does it. You know what I mean? And like in Canada, it's on TV. Like if Braintree Living has a press conference, it's on TSN. You know what I mean? Or it's on Sportsnet, like live as it's happening. Like they take up, if it's on radio, like but so I don't know how in an original six market, like, and I don't think we play this up enough, how vital this market is to the business of the NHL, how big it is, how large the fan base is relative to markets like the freaking Columbus Blue Jackets or, insert the Anaheim Ducks. Like, no, I don't need to watch Pat Verbeek being able to talk, but it's crazy that I can instead and not watch Kyle Davidson
We've
talk.
seen this though with the Hawks. I feel like they've held these pressers. You haven't been able to see any video from it. It's just like all the beat reporters and the insiders putting out quotes on Twitter, and then they put it out like 9 hours later.
Like edited and stuff.
Yeah. Well, not even just edit. Yeah, but just like I guarantee you, we're gonna see a video like from it, and it's gonna come out after we're done talking about it. So
yeah, just the lack of live coverage is kind of baffling, right? Because this organization has talked a lot about post the incident and stuff, how they're going to be more transparent, etc. about these things. This doesn't seem very transparent to me, but
dude, your team was just involved in one of the biggest blockbusters in recent memory. Like everybody should be wanting to hear what's next. There's still a month or whatever, a little over a month left in this free agency window. Like we want to hear about what Kyle Davidson's been doing. What the hell are we doing here? Why do I have to read 8 Ben Pope tweets to like get a glimpse of what was said?
Just say
You don't even get. Oh, sorry. I'm just saying you don't even get when you're reading a quote versus hearing it. You don't get the full.
No, dude.
You don't get the full scope of it. You don't get context. You don't get, the question that was asked to give the answer that you're pulling the quote from.
Yeah, and like
There's
body
no
language,
tone.
the way he's answering the question, you can tell kind of how honest he's being, or if he's just kind of shooting the shit. Yeah,
There's no tone. So one of these Ben Pope tweets was Kyle Davidson said he's extremely open to bringing an established NHL star or two via trade or free agency this summer, but he shied away from making a firm commitment to doing so. See, but the fact that that's on text over video, what if Kyle Davidson was like, I'm extremely open to, versus I'm extremely open to, I feel like the tone is so important. But
that's the thing with Davidson. You can easily tell like when he's being like, truthful versus when he's just kind of saying stuff to talk, right? With Davidson.
Yeah.
Justin, can I make a quick addendum to something you said earlier?
Oh, sure.
So you said that the Hawks acquired their own pick back because of offer sheets,
I
but
said it could be a reason. Yeah.
but it can't be because it's for this year's draft. You know what I'm saying? Like that pick will have already gone by the time you can offer sheet Wyatt Johnston on July 1st. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. My bad then. I swear I saw something about
Friedman,
that. Yeah.
Friedman said he said it and then corrected himself. I'm
Oh,
looking
it was
through-
Friedman. Okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Okay.
So he said that.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I forgot that it's this year's pick. So that pick will
Yeah.
have already been used in theory or traded up for. You know what I mean? Like you
trade
can't-
up, Kyle.
Come on,
That's the
Elliot.
Seriously.
Come on, Elliot.
Yeah,
Do
you're
better.
supposed to be the best in the game.
Be
Come
better.
on. Now.
Yeah, that's one guy I normally see his stuff where it's like I don't even question. Like, yeah, okay, that must be legit. So
That's
like,
all right.
whatever.
Everybody
Yeah.
makes mistakes. Even the goats.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, even we make mistakes occasionally, right? Not often, but nah, I'm just kidding.
Oh God, what every day, once a day.
No, never. I don't even speak for yourselves. I
Mr.
haven't made
Perfection over there. But yeah, just I have to say my main takeaways from this KD presser, right? He talked a lot about the vets have been disappointing, which like we've ranted a lot about in the show. Pretty much after every post game, every show we talk about it. He seems really enthused of how the young players prospects says they're exceeding expectations. A lot to look forward to there. It's good to see. And yeah, I mean, this is just kind of PR talk, but he talks about the rebuild's ongoing, right? It's not an overnight process, but it does sound like he has increased expectations for next season. See the actual progression that he said would happen this year, but clearly hasn't. That's kind of a lot of main bubble theses there, but that seems to be kind of some of his main thoughts there. Yeah.
Yeah, the main kind of vibe that I got from the whole press conference was that like Kyle Davidson was kind of like, you guys need to chill out, all right? Like I know this roster is underperformed, but we got a lot of things. He was basically referring to the prospect pool as like, behind the scenes stuff and what's coming and focusing on that more so than like this horrible product that's been put together this year, which I mean, that's in his spot. I guess that's kind of what he's got to do. But I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what we're doing all the time too. Like every time we lose, we're like, oh, but we got Roman Kanserov. So that was the vibe that I got, was just like, chill out, guys. Just wait. Look at what we're building here. Which I mean, hopefully for his sake, that next year looks a little bit better than this season, just so that he can be around to see all these prospects that he's drafted and stuff.
That is the thing, right? Like if he's having this, I don't think he would be having this presser this time next season if we are in the same position, because he'll be gone, right? So from his talk, he's going to say these things. I do think there's some weight to that too. Like I do think he's right about that. I do think the future is bright. The players that you want to see produce on the Sox team are, and there's a lot waiting in the wings. But at the same time, it is fair to criticize this year's team. He did say we'd be better, and we haven't been. And a lot of the vets he brought in outside of Bertuzzi and Tavon, and they haven't even been consistent, haven't produced, right? They haven't really played the way they expected, haven't fulfilled the roles that they envisioned. So it's like it is fair to be both critical of his roster construction for this season, but also be mindful of the long-term process here. Like with Yzerman, for example, in Detroit. Yzerman, damn it. Keep that in mind, right? How did I do it again? Yeah, man. Jesus.
No, I do think that the appropriate stance to have on KD is neither, never KD or, like I feel like I see a lot of people that are like, people need to calm down. Like Kyle Davidson has done great work and is cooking together. And then I also see people saying like, oh my gosh, everything he does is horrible. What is this? Third for Taylor Hall. You got fleeced. Like all this stuff.
Strike a balance, a middle ground.
There's a middle ground.
We always say this. The truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I will say this though about Kyle Davidson. If Mikko Rantanen is on a different team now, but if he's on a different team next season than the Carolina Hurricanes,
what are you doing?
If Mitch Marner is on a different team next season, if Elias Pettersson is on a different team next season, I don't know that JT Miller's not really a fit here.
No, I'm good on that.
No. But if Elias Pettersson is on a different team next season, I don't know what other stars are really available out there via trade right now. I think it depends on what
you consider a star.
You say Katie's got to get one of those guys.
Not just what you consider a star, because there are stars and there are superstars, right? Like Rantanen is a superstar. Elias Pettersson is a star, you know, with superstar potential, but a star right now. He's not, you know, he hasn't shown he can consistently be that 100-point
not
guy.
a superstar. Yes.
No, but he scored 100 points in the NHL before.
He can be. He can be. Yeah.
I think if all of those players, you know, end up on different teams and the Hawks aren't in the mix on any of them, he failed.
Yeah, like he has to have himself an off season this year. There's a lot of pressure on him now. Like if his seat wasn't out before, it definitely is now. So he has to, you know, nail in the draft in the off season. And yeah, hopefully one of those 3 guys are a Blackhawk this time next season would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this press conference really does point in the direction that he's going to be trying to do something. Like to end that quote, he said, "It's got to be there for you to act upon. If something comes along that makes sense, then I'm certainly going to act on it, but I can't manufacture that myself." And that's certainly true. Like if Carolina signs Rantanen right away and Toronto signs Marner, and then you know, the Canucks make a deal with Pettersson to the Sabres, where the Sabres are giving back Bowen Byram and
Dylan Cousins.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, there's not really anything he can do. But what Tassos just said is true. Like if Rantanen doesn't re-sign Carolina and he goes and re-signs somewhere else that isn't Chicago, that's on KD.
Same with Marner, same with Pettersson.
Yeah.
You know, because you can put together, I think, you know, really truly, you know, and people like to slander the fact that I always bring up trading Kevin Korchinski, but, you know, you can put together a competitive offer for Elias Pettersson right now.
I would push back on that and say that in the offseason, it'll be easier, because I still think that there's a glimmer of hope for Vancouver that, like, they want to make the playoffs this year. And, you know, obviously I don't think they're going to be able to go on a run or anything, but that is certainly going to be the mindset as we're this far into the season and they're like, whatever, a couple points out of a spot. I think there's not going to be wanting to, like, go back necessarily right now and, like, invest in youth. But I think after the season, when it's all said and done, if they miss the postseason, I think that the Blackhawks could definitely put together a competitive offer for Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, I mean, the Canucks aren't, I mean, as bad as things are right now, like they aren't out of that race, right? They're only a few points out of the playoffs. They're still in it, right? Same with the Rangers, right? We talked a lot about them being a disaster, but, you know, it would be kind of probably not wise of them to back out now, right? That's probably an off-season issue.
So I don't want to I frankly don't want to read these quotes of Kyle Davidson saying that Anders Sorensen is a way better coach than he actually is, or frankly about Laurent Brossoit, because, you know, who really cares at this point?
Well, that's cope. The Brossoit stuff is cope. He's like, no, he's going to play this year, I promise.
Yeah, but
you keep saying that. Keep telling yourself that. I don't think he's exists right now.
But I do think it's important. You know, this is Kyle Davidson on short-term plans ahead of March 7th trade deadline. We'll be listening to see what happens. Obviously, when you're in a position that we're in, you're traditionally more of a seller, but we'll kind of just see what comes our way. Nothing that we're going to certainly force. We've got a lot of assets. We're not necessarily in that asset build stage like we were a little while ago. So we've got the luxury of being patient and just seeing what comes our way. I don't know.
He also said a lot where it's like he's not necessarily working on something like else right now, which honestly, I don't know if I believe that. That's another thing, KD too. Sometimes what he says, he doesn't necessarily end up doing, right? If you look back to last year, right? Oh yeah, we're gonna draft the best player available. Proceeds to draft through the right shot D's. So with Davidson, sometimes what he tells the media, this isn't necessarily his thought process in actuality, if that makes sense. Yeah.
This just in Luke Davidson becomes.
In other words, I think KD surely is working on some other things right now. I have to think. I mean, he'd be foolish not to, right?
Yeah.
He does seem to like lie or like just go back on his word like very soon after he says something.
Just so you guys know, that's the job. That's the job. Like you don't
tell the media everything.
Yeah, you don't tell the media what your real plans are. You know, you don't tip your hand. You know, you don't, because frankly that allows others to take advantage of you.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's
so just gotta give the insiders something to write about, right?
Last quote I wanted to read. Kyle Davidson on the state of Chicago's rebuild. In terms of a rebuild and building up through our young players, a lot of the players are still in amateur hockey, so we're not out of that. We can't lose sight of that. Did I expect us to be better than second last? I did. But that doesn't at all mean that I'm concerned about the bigger picture here, about the bigger process at play here in terms of where we're headed and how good this group and this young group coming up can be. That hasn't changed at all. I'm probably more optimistic having seen the years our young players are having throughout the organization. I'm probably more optimistic now than I was in the summer in that respect.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I was saying. He's like, yeah, don't ask me about TJ Brody, Pat Murray, Laura Brossoit. come on, guys. We've got stuff going on here. Yeah, I mean, he's right, to be fair.
To be fair.
Yeah, he's got himself up over there, right?
Nick Lardis having 41 goals probably helps him out a little bit.
He's on
I was just going to bring that up.
Goal scoring streak.
He's leading the entire CHL, not just the OHL. Like, he's leading all three like major junior leagues in scoring right now. 41 goals in 44 games. Guess who's second, by the way? Michael Misa. So maybe a potential future teammate there.
That's all right. You have Chief on Twitter saying that Lardis is like a maybe.
Yeah, well, he clearly knows more, right?
Did you see that tweet that I replied to him? He was like,
I saw that.
He was like talking about like all the Blackhawks in like his amateur projection, and he was like Frank Nazar, good top 6 guy, I think, no, he said good middle 6 guy for Frank Nazar. And
Middle 6.
It's like, first of all, a good middle 6 is. Middle 6 is kind of a stupid thing to say, even because it's like a good middle 6 means a second line guy, right?
Second or third, right? Yeah, middle 6.
What are we talking about? But also, if you've watched these like past like 6-7 games with Frank Nazar, and you just think, yeah, this is going to be a good middle 6 guy, like even if he's not, he clearly has the potential to be a first line NHLer. Like,
I'll be honest, like the last few games, he's impressed me more than my boy Bedard the last few. I'm not saying he's going to be that good.
No, but
like,
no, you're right.
You're allowed to say he's played because, I haven't been thrilled with Bedard's last 5 games, to be honest with you either.
He's getting points, but he hasn't been consistent over the full games. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think Nazar has been putting together better performances than Bedard, and he's got so many similar qualities. Like, he's got the speed, he's got the vision. So, I tweeted out. I wanted to say the sky is the fucking limit for Frank Nazar, but then I was like, that might come off too harsh to Chief, and he might get upset again. Which maybe I should have done that just to get the reply. But
his ceiling is first line player. Right? That's not crazy to say. That is his ceiling. And I think for like floor, I think worst case, he's probably a good second line player. Which like okay, fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. So middle 6 there, Chief. Okay. And I don't even think he said anything about Kanserov either.
How can you not even bring him up to?
Well,
what
he probably
he's doing
doesn't
over
know
there?
who he is, if we're being honest.
That's crazy.
That's people in the audience not knowing the right questions to ask or being, I don't know, I want to say afraid, but that's not like that's not a touchy subject, like, hey, when are we getting this really awesome hockey player? But I think that's just like guys in the media not really knowing,
What, not asking about Kanserov?
Yeah.
Did they not ask him a question about him? Like,
well, we don't know because we didn't watch it, but
yeah, good point. But like, I think that's a big question though. Is like, do you guys plan on trying to get him out of that contract next season? Which everything they've said, everything points to they're content with him staying in the KHL next season, 26-27 for the Hawks. But like the way he's playing over there, I think he could play in the Hawks right now. So like, if I'm working for the Hawks, that's a first question I'm asking. But anyway.
Yeah. All right, you guys want to hit a break?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. Both are at Chicago Hockey Radio. Leave a 5-star rating and review on all audio platforms. That's Spotify, that's Apple Podcasts. I guess we're on other audio platforms too, but those are the 2 big ones. I don't know if we got any listeners on Amazon Podcasts or Amazon Music or whatever it is. Or
are we on those?
Yeah, we're on iHeartRadio. We're on, we're on anything. Basically, we're on Google Play, I think. I don't really shout those out, but because Spotify and Apple Podcasts, those are the 2 big ones that help your boys at CHR out a lot. And remember, the link to the interest form is what we're calling it. The link to that is in the description of this episode for the Wednesday, March 5th live stream. A live live stream.
A live live stream.
I always thought that was awkward to say.
In-person live stream
at Midwest Coast Brewing during the game against the Ottawa Senators. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with National Hockey League Hour of the show. NHL edition of Chicago Hockey Radio. Justin Lynch, Lee Grossman, and Tassos Kirkos bringing it to you live and in color. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, nice cough right into the microphone, my brother.
I like how you always say live and in color, like this is like not the 1950s or something.
I don't know. I like saying that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, it's cool. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's only so many ways you can intro a show and have it be good, I guess. I don't
No,
know.
you're the intro guy. You're better than we are. I mean, I don't even do it.
Oh, a little bit of a stray to Lee. He's better at it than Lee.
Oh, that's right, Lee. I guess he does occasionally do it. Oh, my bad, Lee. Sorry, buddy.
All right.
Obviously
NHL
not
hour.
very memorable from the intros from Mr. Lee Grossman, but that's okay. We'll work on that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Keep that in the back pocket and move.
And we got to make you guys plug gods too. I'm the plug.
I'm
god
terrible.
of
You're
this
better
show.
than me. You're better than me, Lee.
I plug.
You plug.
Yeah, you do.
sometimes.
I just know you're gonna plug, so I'm like, I don't have to plug because you're gonna plug. Anytime we do the show without you, I plug everything.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I don't listen when I'm not.
Plugging. Yeah.
Just kidding. All right, NHL hour. You guys want to talk Miko Rantanen? I'm just kidding. No.
Yeah, let's just spend the whole NHL hour talking about that more, right? Like we did already do it during the Hawks one, right?
Yeah. Let's see what you got. I mean, they did play their first games with their new club. I don't know if you guys, saw any of that. I did watch both Marty Necas games, and I did catch the Miko Rantanen game.
Jack Drury had the first goal of new
I know.
player of the new team there. Yeah, they just had 2 assists, I think, in his second game. So yeah, he seemed like a decent fit so far. I mean, the first couple games, Rantanen, I don't think he didn't produce his first game, nor did Hall, but I think they play again. Do they play today? I think or tomorrow. I think is their next game.
Tomorrow is their next game.
Yeah, so first game of new club could be a little, tricky sometimes. Got to get up to speed, but I'm sure they'll start cooking there soon. But yeah, so far I'd say Avs have looked about, the same as expected. Yeah.
Did you see the Avs PR tweet that Marty Necas passes Pavel Francouz, goaltender, on the franchise points leaderboard and is now tied for 423rd all time in Avs franchise history?
Hilarious.
Well, there we go, making history there. How about that Kel McCarr goal? If what was it, 10 seconds left in regulation
15,
or something?
yeah, it was sick.
Yeah, Mr. Clutch there. What a season he's having. Yeah, it's why we joke about this in the Hawks time, but yeah, it feels like every day him and Hughes are swapping the Norris league there. Yeah.
All right. You guys want to talk? Do you guys want to start with Pietrangelo, or you guys want to start with the Will Borgen contract?
Let's start with Pietrangelo.
Okay. So Alex Pietrangelo withdraws from the Four Nations face-off due to, lingering stuff, I guess, wants to rest and recoup for the rest of the regular season in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I brought this up on my show too this morning, just saying that, I think this is
Sus.
just the first, it's not sus, because
Is he gonna get fined?
no, he won't get fined.
It just feels like he doesn't want to play in the Four Nations to me.
But is he still playing? He's still playing
For the
right?
team.
Yeah, he played.
No, he's not.
He played 20. Yeah, he played 24 and a half minutes.
Oh,
Last
I mean,
night.
yeah, I mean, he's playing. That's what I mean. The fact that he's still playing NHL games right now, it's not like he's hurt or anything. So maybe he's playing through stuff. He just wants to be rested for the rest of the season. But
Yeah,
maybe
that's,
for the team,
that
that's what
sounds
they
like
want. Yeah.
the definition of I got something that day. That's kind of what he's doing. He's like, I'm
Hopefully-
just resting.
Well, I mean, put it into perspective here a little bit.
He's old.
Well, yes, he's old. The Vegas Golden Knights are Stanley Cup contenders. They're definitely in that group of 5 in my mind that can win the Stanley Cup this year. I would imagine that winning another Stanley Cup for Alex Pietrangelo is much more important to him than winning the Four Nations face-off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
you probably would
the
think
answer is
that,
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think it makes sense. And frankly, I think we're going to see other players do this.
That sucks.
I think that's kind of a shame though, because we've had this question in the show, how seriously are players going to take that? If
That's
a bunch
the
of them are, if a bunch of them are going to be opting out of this, it's even the players who do show up, what are these games even going to look like? Are they just going to be all-star skills competitions, right? If that's the case, I think that's kind of unfortunate, right? Because we have been hyping this event up a lot, but it might not live up to our expectations. Yeah.
Who fills in?
Ooh, well, Drew Doughty's returning from injury pretty soon. You think he could be a potential option there? Yeah. Although he just got back though, so
I can't believe you didn't rush to say Evan Bouchard right away, Justin. That's your boy.
Yeah, no, not a fan. I'm sure Meme Toe on Instagram will be all over that train. But yeah, no, I hopefully Bouchard's. Well, actually, no, I hope he is the guy because he'll be a pylon out there for the U.S. Forwards and just sweep right through. So yeah, Evan Bouchard, that's my pick.
I don't even think he's the most likely defenseman on his own team to fill in for Alex Pietrangelo.
You think Nurse would fill in before him?
Yeah,
Ooh.
I do. I think Nurse is on the short list of players. The thing about Doughty is like, look, I said it earlier. I think it almost like feels wrong not having Drew Doughty on a Team Canada in a best on best situation, but the guy hasn't played all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little risky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather him be rested for Kings hockey.
Look,
Yeah, that would make more sense than a Pietrangelo situation.
The Kings probably feel the same way that the Golden Knights do about Alex Pietrangelo. It's like, okay, well, you haven't played all year,
and then goes immediately
we're in a playoff race.
Gets hurt. The Four Nations doesn't play game at the Kings.
Yeah.
Dougie Hamilton.
That's a good option, honestly.
Mackenzie Weegar or somebody.
Mackenzie Weegar deserves it too. He's been having an awesome season with Calgary. So, I think you go pretty far down the list before you decide on Evan Bouchard. But watch, I don't know. This is the same team that included Travis Sanheim and, who's their goaltending?
Stuff Thompson in goal. That is insane.
Yikes.
That is absolutely insane. Yeah, I'm hoping maybe somebody that, no, I shouldn't say I'm hoping for that. You don't hope for anything like in terms of injuries, but hoping more forwards opt out and maybe we could get our boy in there, right? Bedsy. Probably not. I'm being delusional.
Dude, have you seen something? Like, I don't know if he's scored since then, but like Sam Bennett hasn't scored a goal since being announced to Team Canada, Four Nations.
Oh,
They announced that roster like 2 months ago.
I know.
woof.
Holy.
I know. He probably has put one in the net since then, but like a couple of weeks ago, that was the narrative that he hadn't scored a goal since being named to the team.
That's a woof. Maybe he'll pull out.
Maybe that's what happens when you announce these guys way too early. I don't know.
Yeah, like 3 months before the tournament. Yeah, a lot can happen in between, right?
Yeah. And we already, we've seen a couple of, Jacob Markstrom was replaced by Sam Ersson, and we talked about the Sweden goaltending thing where they're still awaiting Linus Ullmark. And it
should have been Soda. I'm just kidding.
Again, it could still be, but think of like, but that's like an actual, the Markstrom thing is like an actual, like that guy's out, whereas like, Pietrangelo, they're still looking to recoup him. I don't even think, maybe this is my Maple Leafs bias talking a bit, but like, if I'm the Maple Leafs, I'm a little worried about Austin Matthews going to this.
Well, he has had a bit of an up and down season with injuries and things like that. So you probably wouldn't want him playing from that aspect.
No.
I don't want to.
Why are you more worried about Matthews than like any other team is worried about their stars?
Well, because Matthews has been banged up this season. He's missed some time. He's, the first time he came back from injury, he did not look good. Then he was out again, and now he looks like Austin Matthews again. Yeah, now he looks like Austin Matthews. But you don't want to risk anything at the Four Nations, right?
And don't speak from like the Maple Leafs front office. As a Maple Leafs fan yourself,
oh God,
do you want to see him go or no?
No.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't want to see him there.
Oh, okay.
No, why? For what? It's not the Olympics.
Yeah, but it's Four Nations.
It's not the Olympics.
Bragging rights, America.
I guess.
Yeah, it's their so-called best American hockey player now, right? Wouldn't you want to represent the U.S.? Yeah.
Yeah, I do, but there's also the fact that the playoffs are really important to that team. I think about the Carolina Hurricanes, and they just spent all that on Mikko Rantanen. You really want Rantanen? Like, I know you're not going to hold Mikko Rantanen and Sebastian Aho back from the Four Nations, and it's not like those guys are banged up at all, but like, no. I don't know. The playoffs are so important to you this season.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you make that deal, you have to at least get to the conference final. And the last couple of times they've been in the conference final, it's like they've gotten swept, I think. Like, they got swept by the Panthers, and they got, you know what I mean? Like, you got to, win games in the conference final. Like, getting swept in the conference final, you might as well lose in the second round, right?
Yeah, that is a point to bring up. Not to bring this back to Rantanen, but he and Aho are really good buddies over there, right? Obviously, they're fellow countrymen. That could play a factor in his negotiations there of Carolina, right? I just thought about that now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would have thought that him being buddies with Nate McKinnon and Cale Makar would have played a factor.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I'm scared that the Four Nations is going to be really just uninteresting and bad. Like
I'm
low
sure it'll
ball.
still be more fun than the All-Star skills competition, the games and stuff that are just a bunch of nonsense, in my opinion. So I don't disagree with you. I'm a little more nervous about it now as well, but I think this will still be more entertaining than that, hopefully at least. Right?
Yeah, hopefully. I'm just like, if we start seeing like a mass exodus over the next like month of just guys being like, yeah, I'm not playing, it's gonna suck. We're just gonna be sitting here wondering
It's like
why
when
we did
guys skip the All-Star game. It's like Alex Ovechkin like taking the 1-game suspension to skip the All-Star game. You know.
Yeah, there could be. I mean, it definitely feels like dominoes could have fallen here, right? And it's like, I think it tells you a lot about these players too. It's like the ones who are deciding to play. I think it tells you a lot about them, right? Because I mean, yeah, there's the risk of injury, but it's like you could get hurt any game, man. It's like if I'm, like, I wouldn't pass up any opportunity to represent my country. I don't know. I know it's the Four Nations, it's not Olympics or anything, and yeah, sometimes it's a team decision, not yours. But I don't know. I think it is very telling for those who decide to sit out and to be honest about that.
I hear you. I don't think that, like, if Alex Pietrangelo is still at the top of his game by the time the Italy Olympics roll around, like, Team Canada is not going to keep him off in favor of Travis Sanheim because, you know, he decided to sit out the Four Nations face-off. Same thing with, like, Austin Matthews and Team. You think USA Hockey is going to be like, actually, Austin, you didn't play at the Four Nations, so.
Oh,
you know.
no.
Well, no.
They're not gonna care. But yeah.
I don't know. Just food for thought. Just food for thought. I don't know, man.
We have a question in chat. Is Tassos Canadian? Why are you a Leafs fan? LMAO.
All right.
We've talked
Let's
about
do
it.
Tassos lore.
We'll bring it up again.
I'm a Maple Leafs fan because when my grandfather came from Greece and he moved to Canada, adjusting to Canadian life was difficult for him. And so people advised that he watch the Maple Leafs play, and he watched them rattle off their last Stanley Cups all the way up until 1967, and he can still close his eyes and list you each player and their number from that 1967 team, which is pretty cool. So I grew up a Maple Leafs fan, also because, hockey in South Florida. The Florida Panthers of my youth were not the Florida Panthers of today.
No, they were horrible.
So it was really tough, and they were my number 2, like always really, right up there with me. And honestly, like kind of ironic that the Hawks were always like kind of my number 3 team, and now we do this. But so I'm not like, like a Hawks hater or anything like that. But yeah, no, I definitely grew up with the Maple Leafs fandom in my heart. And, I always say this too, like the older you get, like it's not really like, I don't like live and die by each Maple Leafs game like I used to when I was a kid. You become more of like a fan of players and guys than you do teams and organizations now, because you realize that, these organizations are just like, they're run by billionaires that don't actually really give a crap about the fans. But that's neither here nor there.
Once it gets
sure, the Leafs have won a lot of cups since that 67 run, right? Yeah.
Ha ha ha. That's super funny.
Yeah, great original joke there. I thought I cooked at that one.
Yeah, all right. I see how it is, fellas.
All right.
Well, I give us Will Borgen
Will
extension,
Borgen.
absolute blockbuster here. 5x4 for the Rangers. Hasn't been there long, but clearly I think he's a good fit there if they're already extending him like that. But I don't know. It seems a little much for Will Borgen, in my opinion.
A little?
I agree.
A little?
Yeah, a little. I mean, he's making almost as much as Alex Vlasic. I don't think he's Alex Vlasic, so I don't know about that one.
I literally had, like, Raven put the NHL Hour title of the show being called Puzzling Moves Around the League because of this Will Borgen extension. Like,
Yeah,
what
is
are
this?
you doing? Like, what are you
so bad.
doing?
That's like a 7th D there, making $4 million.
Like, oh my God. If you're the Rangers, like, I'm at a loss for words for this deal. Like, can we get like career numbers on Will Borgen? Like, this guy isn't suddenly turning it around and becoming, like Alex Vlasic. Like, Alex Vlasic is a good comp actually because of the price point and the number.
Yeah.
Like, what?
As time goes on, like as these years go on, that Vlasic contract is going to be just like unreal. Like
One of the best contracts in the NHL. It's not hyperbole to say that. It is. And it's gonna get even better from here.
But I don't see
Will
that happen.
Borgen's 265 career games, 11 goals, 48 assists for 59 points.
Really?
A minus 16 on his career.
It 2 goals and 2 assists in 18 games since with the Rangers. He's 28 years old, so yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm curious how many American Hockey League games this guy's played into, because they always say that a defenseman needs between 300 and 400 pro games before you really know what they fully truly are, but like this guy's 28 years old. You know what I mean?
I think you know what he is at this point. He's established himself, and he's the third pair guy. So I'm not sure why you pay him that much. Yeah.
Yeah, like this guy's played 140 AHL games and 260. So he's at the 400 game threshold. Like, you know what Will Borgen is. I'm sorry, anybody. He's not getting any better than this.
Also, I'm just like I'm on the Rangers like Twitter post about the extension, and like fans are saying like the cap's gonna go up in a couple years. If you're talking,
they're always coping over there.
Talking about the cap going up after an extension to a Will Borgen, it's a bad contract, you know. Like if that's the rationale, like oh, it's you know the league's there's gonna be more money going around. It's like, dude, what are they doing? Like
try to gaslight themselves into thinking this is a good deal. And that's kind of the Rangers season for you, right? A lot of copium over there.
Yeah,
Damn.
I just I guess there's not. I mean, how in depth can we get about, you know, you hear the numbers, you know, kind of what type of player that is. It's like
the only thing that I think of now too, bigger picture about Will Borgen is like, man, how does this mess with the defense market? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, if he's making 4.1 million, then yeah, there's the question
Seth Jones at 9.5 is a bargain.
Seth Jones should be making 14. He should be making what Rantanen wants. If Will Borgen's commanding 4.1, like.
And the Hawks have so many more like defensive prospects. You know, we're going to be needing those next deals coming up. So yeah, does that affect those contracts, right?
Yeah, hopefully they're not saying, look at what Will Borgen did. Another thing to note is that it is New York City. You know, it's New York. Taxes are really high, and
dude, I don't care, man.
Yeah, no. I'm not trying to be copium. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the shitty thing about, you know, I feel like the Rangers is all the agents for these teams are that's probably the first thing they, like, I would assume Will Borgen's agent, before he's talking about anything in favor of Will Borgen, he's saying, hey, these taxes are crazy over here, because it's not like Will Borgen's play is really begging for over $4 million a year.
Yeah, unless he's like a really good defensive player or something, because there's only so much you could get like looking at stats of defensemen. Like, for example, like a lot of Hawks fans are looking, oh my gosh, Lepshinov only has 2 goals and 9 assists in 35 games at Rockford. But it's like, if you're not watching the games, that's not really a smart way to judge a defenseman. So maybe his underlying numbers are good. I don't have them, his analytics, but it's like, yeah, no, he's not a 4.1 million defenseman. I don't think you can really justify that.
Dude, think about this. You offloaded Jacob Trouba, and you just spent more than half of the money that you cleared from that on
Will Borgen.
On Will Borgen.
Yeah, no, there's no justifying it. I'm just trying to think of any rationale for why he would get that. And I'm struggling to see it.
I think Chris Drury is starting to panic in New York a little bit.
You think?
I mean,
because it feels like they kind of, the ship is almost sailed on them needing to do something to salvage this season. And so it's just such a head scratcher.
Well, you just limited your ability to do something this summer, so good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for as disastrous season it's been, though, like they're still only 3 points out of the playoffs, you know. So it's like the Canucks, right? As bad as things are, right? They are still in a position.
But this isn't a team that was supposed to be in that spot.
Yeah, I know, you're right. This is supposed to be. I mean, everybody had this team as a cup contender. They were in the conference finals last year,
Yeah.
so yeah, they shouldn't be fighting just to get in the playoffs. Yeah,
No.
same deal with the Canucks. Yeah.
But like they literally paid this dude a double what he probably should be making.
Yeah, like 1.5 to 2 is what I would expect.
Yeah. Even 2.05, you know what I mean? Like exactly, if you were to cut it in half, like I'd be like, all right, that's fair, you know, but 4.1 for this guy, like I don't even think of any I can't even think of any comparables, right? Like, I don't know. It's super head scratching stuff from the Rangers,
Yeah,
but
I'm just enjoying just people, like there are some people saying this is a W, and then you've also got people saying 5 years for a random is crazy.
Those are the non-Rangers fans, yeah, the sensible ones, yeah. Because the only people who are going to be talking highly of that will be those people, yeah.
yeah. I saw something that said, you know, this is a perfect contract for the Ducks to pick up in 4 years. You know?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Very true. Y'all want to get into some of the weekend games or tee ups in the games tonight, tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off the heater in here because it's clacking away here, and we just.
I was like, is there somebody crawling around in like in the walls or something?
Yeah, we keep it really professional here on Chicago Hockey Radio, but you guys take it away. Next topic.
Yeah, things are going great for me over here too. I guess the clean people decided to start. They brought the whatchamacallit out there. The Jesus Christ, how did I forget the name of the tool that like cleans the floor? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
The vacuum. The vacuum.
You just couldn't think of the word vacuum? What the fuck? He goes, what's the thing that cleans the floors? I'm like, dude.
There's a vacuum thing out there, the hallways. I'm not sure if you guys heard that. So
no, we couldn't hear it because there was literally a hamster jumping in the walls of our heating unit. And
you guys got a hamster? Oh, nice.
No,
No, I'm just joking. Yeah, King's
his name is
Red Wings.
Will Borgen. Actually, could Raven make a thumbnail for Will Borgen when we play the Rangers next?
That'd be a hell of a troll move
Sure,
there.
just for you, Lee.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, games tonight. Kings are playing the Red Wings. Patrick Kane's out again. So in other words, that's a Red Wings game that I don't need to watch because Kane's not in the lineup. So there you go with that one.
Bad
Devils
games. Bad games today.
Yeah, Devils Flyers. I think that's a sneaky matchup there. That could be a good one. Canucks Blues battle of mid there, battle of drama. Canucks land.
Dude,
right?
how good has Quinn Hughes been though? Like
Oh my
he scored
gosh,
both
dude.
goals when they beat the Capitals the other night, and
He's carrying. If they somehow manage to make the playoffs, like you gotta think he gets consideration for the Hart, right?
yes, oh
Yeah.
yes,
I mean, he already should, honestly. I mean, he is that entire team. If he was in the picture, they'd be bottom.
Lee's gonna harass members of the Professional Hockey Writers Association to vote for Quinn Hughes for Norris if the Canucks make the playoffs, just because he didn't have to get the Flames tattoo.
That's true.
That's right.
That is true.
Yeah.
I will be.
Flames had a good weekend too.
I think you got to get a Quinn Hughes jersey.
If
If they make the playoffs and the Flames don't, like you have to get a Hughes
I
jersey.
thought you were gonna say I have to get a Quinn Hughes tattoo.
Like Ducks memes over
Dude,
there
if
on your
Calgary
ass
doesn't
cheek.
make the playoffs, you have to get a Quinn Hughes tattoo. I'll just get his face on my fucking right calf.
No, but you should get a jersey because you didn't have to get the tattoo for the Flames. That
I still have that 3-point gap there, man. The dream is still alive.
I know. Who are the Flames? Don't play tonight. They probably play tomorrow, though. Yeah, they play the Capitals tomorrow. So
No, they won Saturday, lost Sunday, so 1-for-1 there balances out. They play, Caps, like you said, yeah.
And then there's a toilet bowl game tonight.
Penguins, Sharks.
Yes, sir.
Woof, yeah. Sharks have lost 6 in a row. They just lost 7-2 to the Panthers the other night. Yeah, it doesn't matter what we do. We are not out tanking that team. Like, there's no shot. They already got last place covered. So for us, just a matter of like finishing second to last, hopefully get the second pick. But yeah, Sharks, what an absolute disaster they are. Probably one of the worst defensive teams I've ever seen. The Penguins as well. Like, it's hard. Like, they were actually in the race a little while ago, and it's just completely fallen off the rails there. I feel bad for Crosby. They're just inked an extension. It's like he's kind of stuck there now. No more playoffs for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, if the Penguins lose this game to the Sharks, like this is like you got to go in there and take care of business kind of game. Like any game against the Sharks and frankly against the Hawks too. Like any team that loses to those teams is an embarrassment, unless it's like because the Hawks have beaten like cup contenders on off nights, for those contenders. So it's not like when like the Hurricanes lose to the Hawks, even though that hasn't happened yet, or when the Hawks beat Vegas that night, no, that's not really an indictment on Vegas, but like when the teams that are like on the fight for it lose to these true bottom feeders.
These are the ones you need.
Yeah, there's no excuses. At least to our credit, though, it's like, there have been occasional blowouts. But like most of our games have been close. We're in them. The Sharks, man, it's like they're getting killed over there. It's an absolute disaster. And like, it literally feels like they're deliberately tanking. I know I made that joke like last week, and I was not kidding. It feels like they're selling over there. Maybe I'm on something.
I need in the chat, our boy Holt saying, Justin forgetting what a vacuum is called is an all-time CHR moment. Then Justin's mom comes back. Clearly, he has never used one.
That's true. I was never really good with the chores and stuff.
That's hilarious.
Dude, I thought he was talking about some like big industrial thing they use to clean like tile or something.
Like a pressure washer?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what those are called. And then he goes, a vacuum? And I'm like, bro, what?
That is such a like a Zoomer moment. That was not a good look for me at all. I'm gonna get roasted for that for eternity.
I would love to go back and listen to that clip again because I want to hear if you can hear the fucking heater too. That'd be hilarious.
Oh my goodness gracious, man.
Oh
That's
god,
what we do.
Good thing we
Kraken Oilers are also playing tonight. Anybody be tuning into that one? That's clearly the game of the night there, right?
Good save.
Connor McDavid returns from a 3-game sussy.
About
There we
time.
go. I definitely knew that was happening when I brought that game up.
He should be suspended more. 3 games wasn't enough. I think you got to suspend that guy for 7-8 games.
Can we talk?
Well, yeah,
about...
I mean-
Oh no, you first.
The Oilers kind of like they stepped up when he was gone, right? So
Yeah.
just see if him coming back, right? I mean, best part of the game, it should be a benefit. Really in-depth analysis for me here, but Kraken, they've had a very
The Oilers
not even
get
a
better with
mid-season, they're just a
97
bad
on the
team.
ice.
Really, they do? Yeah, you would not get that analysis anywhere else. So you're welcome.
So, there was something I was gonna say. Oh, I heard a crazy report, and like this is about. I did say this on my show today too. That this is about as like rumor boys as it gets, But like and this isn't even like he thought about it, but like
This is official.
No. This is like people were saying like, oh, he should do this. That people were saying that Connor McDavid should skip the 4 Nations because of that 3-game suspension.
What?
As just
Really?
as
like actually just a joke, right? Like were they being serious about that? Wait, really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think whoever said that was joking about it, because there was a report too that was like kind of a report that was had a bit more traction than whatever I just threw out there, but that Connor McDavid might be like scaling back some of his involvement in league activity because of that suspension. You know what I mean? Like he's been on the NHL's competition committee for a while, and frankly, like, we talked about this when he got suspended, right? That it was like Connor McDavid didn't feel like the referees were doing the appropriate job of policing the game, so he had to take matters into his own hands, right? Like the frustration boils over to a point, and I hear that when he sits down in these competition committee meetings, that is a big thing for him, is call the rule book like it is. Otherwise, like, you can't not call the rule book and then at the same time throw a suspension at a guy for sticking up for himself at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing too, that's like, wrap up on McDavid's suspension talk, but like I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but like, like he did do the one thing that you like can't do, which is like if he had taken his stick and slashed him across the legs, you know what I mean? If he had punched him in the face, he doesn't
They
get
could
suspended.
avoid suspending him.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have gotten suspended if he had punched Connor Garland in the face, and he wouldn't have gotten suspended if he had slashed him in the legs. But when you use your stick as a weapon and you take it and you go for somebody's top row, you will get suspended. Now, here's the other thing. Yeah. There was the Matthews-Dahlin suspension. I don't know if you remember that from, I think it was like the outdoor game when they played. But Matthews got 2 games for the same thing, right? And other players have gotten 1, other players have gotten 2, and here you have the best player in the world sitting out 3 games for something like
How
this.
many did Morgan Riley get for that after the
I think he got
The
5
Riley
for
Craig
that.
thing, that was
I think he got 5 for that.
that was deserved. You don't fire a puck into an empty net like that. I was proud of him.
No,
actually, for that.
but
But
Riley
the
also
NHL
tried
doesn't
to
see it that way.
Yeah, Riley also tried to take
Yeah.
years off of that guy's life with that.
You don't slap shut an empty net though. I actually understand. I might be in the minority for that with a boomer take, but I actually understood that.
But that's not a penalty. You know what I mean, though. Like taking a slap shot into an empty net is not a penalty.
It's unwritten rule.
It's an unwritten rule.
Right.
It's
Respect.
not a penalty, right? Whereas what Connor
Different.
Garland was doing to McDavid was a penalty. Like that was a penalty that the refs did not call, and that penalty is interference, right? So, I wondered what you guys maybe thought of.
No,
like,
and on top of all those points you just made, he's also the best player in the world, and quite literally affects ratings and views, not just for the Oilers, but like when the Edmonton Oilers go to play any team in the NHL, there are fans that are going to that game just to watch Connor McDavid.
no shit.
You just said that Connor Garland interfered with him and it didn't get called.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No
Like,
shit.
well, yeah, okay. All right, fair enough.
And that would be the biggest FU to the NHL, right? Because this is an NHL sanctioned event, right? It's
Yeah.
not AAHF, the 4 Nations. Like if you were to sit out, Ooh, that would affect the ratings too, I'm sure.
But even think about like other things, you know what I mean? Like they trot out, the NHL is in the best spot it's ever been business wise, even though we're nickel and diming Mikko Rantanen still. But like the NHL is in the best spot it's ever been, you know, led by Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
You know what
He's
I mean?
the
Like
face, the
he
golden
is the
boy.
forefront of this next generation of superstars that the NHL is lucky to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if McDavid is like, you know what? Like next year, they are having an all-star game in Long Island or on Long Island. I guess people get mad when you say that.
Doesn't show up.
He doesn't show up. Doesn't show. He's like,
Pulls
no,
an
you know
Ovi.
what? I'm gonna do pulls an Ovi. I'll take the 1-game suspension, and do you know how much that hurts the NHL if Connor McDavid's not at the All-Star game?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The face of your league not being at that type of event, yeah, it's not a good look.
And not for like any reason other than just being like, screw you.
Yeah.
You know, he's not injured.
Yeah,
He's just like, nah.
I don't know if McDavid would do that though. I don't know if he's the type of guy to. Maybe he is. I don't know.
I don't know. Like he's like, remember that like insane rehab he went through with his knee and like the fact that he like did it all by himself and he's like, hey, you know what? Like maybe I'm not gonna go like play in the like I'm not saying this is not gonna happen. He will play in the Four Nations, but like he's like, hey, like I'm gonna take this knee that I restructured like myself and built back, you know, like I'm gonna take the 2 weeks off actually, you know.
I mean, he won't, but he could. You know, it's as we've just mentioned, he's the face of the league. He can kind of do what he wants.
Yeah.
To some point.
If the threat is there, they at least got to pay attention, right? And maybe seed his claims, right?
I just think you should be doing everything in your power to make McDavid as happy as possible.
Yeah.
No, you don't want him pissed off.
Especially I mean, the Stanley Cup this past year was like the most, it was like the highest rated ever. And it's like, it's
part
not
because he was there.
It's not because it was the Florida Panthers. It's not because the South Florida market is the biggest one in the league. It's because you had Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, finally made it to his first Cup Finals. So
yeah, they'll get all those ESPN casual viewers in there, right? Yeah, because even if you're not a big hockey fan, you know what Connor McDavid is. You're watching.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a mess. Breaking news in the National Hockey League. Blockbuster trade, another one. Scott Perunovich goes from the St. Louis Blues to the New York Islanders for a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026.
That's the biggest trade the last 4 days.
Yeah. I've honestly been pretty high on Perunovich for a while. I think he won the Hobie Baker, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah. Like he was like a really big college prospect coming up now, and he's had some injury troubles in the NHL and has not really been able to find his groove there.
And just got dealt for a 5th.
Yeah, well, that tells you what they think of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he won the Hobie Baker in 2020.
2020. For who?
Oh
God.
Sorry. I thought
I think it was Minnesota Duluth. Yeah, it was Minnesota Duluth. Yeah. The Bulldogs.
Barking.
Well, there have been some Hobie Baker winners who have never even made it to the NHL, so it's like there is something to be said for that, right? Not all Hobie Baker winners are destined to be stars necessarily, and he's a decent NHL player, right? Nothing special, but just a solid, depth guy, right?
Yeah. Definitely somebody whose career has been hampered by injuries, for sure.
Yeah, it could have been better if not for that, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the big deal of the day. Anything else you guys got, on your mind? Thoughts from the weekend? Any big takeaways?
Yeah, Lee, would you like to start?
I'll start. How about the Ottawa Senators? They won both games on the weekend. They beat the Maple Leafs 2-1 on Saturday. They beat the Utah Hockey Club 3-1. Let me read this.
Top 3 in the Atlantic now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even in the wild card past the Bruins. Hopefully,
good.
I like to see him stay ahead of the Bruins. I don't want to see that team in the playoffs. I'm rooting for their downfall there. So I'm all for that. I think set up that Leafs Senators potential matchup would be kind of fun. Yeah.
In the Senators' 3-1 win over Utah, Brady Tkachuk broke a 10-game goalless drought. Ridley Gregg broke a 12-game goalless drought, and Claude Giroux broke a 13-game goalless drought.
Jeez, everybody's breaking their goalless droughts out there.
Yeah.
Another thing over the weekend, Freddie Anderson got his 300th win for the Canes.
Second fastest in NHL history.
Speaking of 300, Phil Kershaw played his 300th game last night, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just to bring that up to the
How about
NHL hour there. Yeah. Absolute milestone there for a very memorable Blackhawks legend.
Yeah, big part of our future, I'm sure.
Yeah, Philip Kershaw. He's going to be gone in a month. Yeah, for a bag of pucks there probably.
Yeah, Senators are also while you guys scramble to find what else you guys liked on the weekend.
Right, Jesus.
Senators will play 2 preseason games in Quebec City as part of their training camp next season. The team announced they will face the Devils on September 28th and the Canadiens on September 30th. So 2 games in Quebec City.
Yeah. Saturday, I was watching the entire 24 hours Daytona, so I was pretty exhausted Sunday. So that's my excuse. I wasn't really tapped into the hockey outside the Blackhawks this weekend, I will admit. Yeah.
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 Any takeaways from the weekend or no?
I was gonna say Columbus with
That was a big win over the Kings
in overtime. Dude, I mean that team. I really do want them to be the wild card spot now.
Yeah, I don't want the Bruins or Tampa to make the playoffs. Like fresh blood all day long.
Yeah,
new teams, right? I feel like it's been a lot of the same matchups the last few years, same teams in the playoffs, especially in the Eastern Conference. So, and Blue Jackets, I've talked to us before. They're just such an easy team to root for over there. So, I'm a good underdog matchup come playoff time. Yeah.
You also had the Panthers blowing out the Sharks. It was 7-2 the final, but it was also 7-2 after the second period. The Panthers took the foot off the gas, and you had Will Smith after the game saying that was embarrassing, and doing that on home ice, that's probably not a ton of fun.
I can't wait for more of that for the rest of the year from San Jose, and just like if that was the Blackhawks, you would have had
they'd get ridiculed for it, man.
Dude, every single media outlet would have been like, Bedard needs to leave. Like, it's
embarrassing for Leaf. The Hawks need the win now for Bedard. The Sharks lose. Oh, that's cool. They're just rebuilding. The kids are cooking, right? It's empowering over there. But the Hawks got to put a shirt on. I think I made that joke a few times, but I'll keep saying it because it bears repeating. It's just so funny to see just the different ways these teams are covered. We're in very similar situations. Yeah.
And it really does feel like it's only getting worse for San Jose. It feels like now it's like every 2 or 3 games is like an embarrassing loss, whether it's either getting blown out or like getting to an early lead and then blowing it. They are just we have no chance of catching them for bottom of the league. We've got 3 games on them and a point on them. So San Jose are absolutely horrible. Breaking news.
Yeah. I will say, too, another team in California, the Anaheim Ducks, beating up on the Nashville Predators. I didn't make a bold proclamation. I felt like if there was a team that was... I said this to Justin last Wednesday when you weren't on the show, but I said, if there is a team that is super far out of it that could make it, it would be the Nashville Predators right now. If we're picking a team that is super far out of it, like the Blackhawks, Sabres, Sharks, Ducks,
sure.
Kraken, you know what I mean? Predators. Like, I think they have the best likelihood. They actually ripped off 5 in a row. And then
3 of those wins were against the Hawks and the Sharks, though.
No, fair point. But you got to beat, like we said about that Pittsburgh, you got to beat the bad teams.
The must wins.
And then they lose to the Ducks.
And then that was a must win, and they totally, peed down their leg and. Mason McTavish is turning into like a really nice player for the Ducks. He's got like 5 goals in his last 3 games for them, and I don't know. I like him a lot. Like that's a good piece for them.
And Zegras
I was sick of that Will Jr. moment when he saved a goal on the goal line, then went away and they scored. That was
clutch.
One of the moments of all time. Yeah.
And Zegras had 2 points in that game, goal and assist, and I think that was his first game back from injury, if I'm not mistaken, unless he also played against the Penguins.
He played earlier in the week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, new cut too. Weird haircut thing going on. The flow is gone. He's trying to copy Bertuzzi over there. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. The Ducks, the Anaheim Ducks, they stink too.
They have like. Talk about a team that has like they have so many like young talented players, but they need identity. They need like legit guys that are like in their primes. I think like that's a team that why would they continue to be so worried about the draft at this point? It's like you need some legit guys that are going to come into this roster and make it a legit team. You can't just have a roster full of 24 sub 24-year-old players that are just like, I don't know, they're such a random team. Like they can beat up on teams and then they lost 5-2 to the Panthers and then beat the Pens 5-1 and then beat the Preds 5-2. It's like just so inconsistent out of that team that like
to give them some credit though, like in the big picture, like they have made some progression this year. I think it was expected, right? But like last couple of years, like they've been in the dumpsters with us and the Sharks. They're a little further around the rebuild, but like they would be expected to be in a different place. But they have made some progression this year. But it is still a shitty team.
Lucas Dostal has been a huge reason why. Like that guy is
Yeah.
quietly one of the better up and coming goalies in the league.
He's won them games in terms of goalies and win games. He's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say too, like when the Ducks score, I mean, obviously this is like for most teams, but the Ducks are like 19-0-2 when they score 3 goals or more, and then they're whatever 19-0-2 minus their record is like 120 and 123 and whatever when they don't. So, I just
Woof.
woof is right.
You need to score goals to win hockey games. Breaking news.
You got to score goals to win hockey games. You got to not let as many in too to win hockey games.
That is how very true that is.
All right. What else? We'll be doing the post game show after tomorrow. And I need, a little rematch of the Stars Golden Knights. That should be a good one.
I was just looking at that myself. Yeah,
Jets
that could be a
Canadiens
potential.
is going to be a good one. Cole Perfetti had his first NHL hat trick on the weekend. That was pretty cool.
Perfetti scored his first hattie before. Boy, what's going on there? He needs to step up his game. I'm just kidding. Bruins Sabres. They have like inverted records over there. Yeah, that could be a good one.
I can't stand the Boston Bruins.
I'm just sick of them. I think a lot of NHL fans are, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sabres are just such a dumpster fire too. Like it's crazy how bad they are this year.
And they take another step back.
They have. They continue to.
It looked like just as they're coming out of the rebuild, looked like it. They missed by what was it, 1 point a couple seasons ago. They take a step back. Last year they're about 500, and now it's like they're back in the tank race. Suddenly they're a lotto team again. It's just a never-ending cycle over there. It's definitely a cautionary tale for us to follow. It's like we don't want to go down that road, right? I mean, you can stack up all these picks and prospects, but you got to make it work, right? You got to establish an identity, establish a culture, and establish veteran presences there. They haven't done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a team that kind of built from the back, similarly to how we've been trying to do so as well. Not to scare Blackhawks fans, but I mean that is kind of what they did. How many high first round picks do they have on their blue line?
Yeah, like Darlene, Power, etc. Right? Yeah, Byram. Yeah.
Okay, so I should mention, I mentioned how awesome Mason McTavish has been. He was actually just named the NHL's second star of the week with his 5 goals in 3 games. So the Ducks had a 2-in-1 week. Pasternak, dude, if we're talking about 2 guys that
Bruins would be nowhere without him.
Bruins would be nowhere without. If we're talking about Quinn Hughes for the Hart, and it pains me to say a Boston Bruins player should be nominated for the Hart Trophy, but if
it's a consideration,
because I still think there's a real legitimate chance that the Boston Bruins fall out of the Stanley Cup playoff mix here. If they somehow make it, David Pasternak should be in a top 3 Hart ballot discussion because. Dude, you take Pasternak off the Bruin. Like, the gap between him and the next closest Boston Bruin is seismic.
Yeah, it's
it's like him, Marchand, McAvoy, and then there's another big drop off there.
But Marchand's had such a big drop off this season too.
Yeah. He's got Marchand has the second most points on that team, and he's got 38 points in 51 games.
Yikes!
What is he doing on the 4 Nations roster, man? That was a decision of all time.
Well, that's what happens not only when you.
He was one of the original 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you put out a list of you put out 5 players, 6 players on your roster before summer, like in the middle of summer. Of course, a guy or two is going.
How is he one of the first 6 players you name for Team Canada? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Barrett Hayden was named the 3rd star of the week too. So those are your NHL 3 stars Monday afternoon. Okay, so how I said that the Ottawa Senators are playing 2 games in Quebec City in the preseason? Mm-hmm. Article on Sportsnet. Senators owner Michael Andlauer shoots down potential Quebec City move amid arena talks. I'm going to read a bit of this article, and then we can wrap the show on this discussion here.
Bring back the Nordiques. Sorry.
Well, Ottawa Senators owner Michael Andlauer has never been shy about wanting his team to have more of a footprint in the francophone market. So it comes as no surprise that the Senators will be playing a pair of preseason games as part of a 4-day stay in Quebec City, where the team will engage in a number of community initiatives next season. Andlauer has wanted to see the Senators play games in Quebec City ever since he bought the team back in 2023. Unfortunately, the LA Kings beat him to the punch in 24 after playing a pair of exhibitions against the Bruins and Florida Panthers at Videotron Center. There has always been a desire for the city to bring back an NHL team after the Quebec Nordiques relocated to Colorado in 1995, but many have speculated there is a better chance of new U.S. markets joining the league. Andlauer hopes that a return to Quebec City eventually happens, though. He even hopes that the city will even be able to see more than just Senators exhibition games going forward, but he isn't thinking about the team taking up permanent residence in Quebec. Here's the quote. Quebec deserves, in my opinion, an NHL team, but that will not be on my file. In the future, I hope we can play a few regular season games in Quebec City. If we can play in Sweden, we should be able to play in Quebec City. That's a decision the NHL must make. So there is, Andlauer admitted that it's been a tough process to secure a deal with the National Capital Commission on an arena for Le Breton Flats, which I guess is the area that they want to build an arena in, because the arena they have now is in Canada, which is a suburb of Ontario. It's like 30, 40 minutes away by train. Driving out there, I've heard, is pretty miserable. I'm trying to think. There were terms in our agreement that we talked about, quote, fair market value, which I'm totally for, and that's what I want. What's fair? Let's just hope the NCC doesn't change the rules at the last second. He's shooting down, because Ottawa's interesting because it's like the areas like Ottawa, Gatineau. Ottawa exists like right on the border almost of Ontario and Quebec. So there are a lot of French-speaking people in and around the Gatineau area. But yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know. The arena issue has been a problem in Ottawa for a really long time. Eugene Melnick had the issue before his passing, and it was always really difficult for them to try and secure an arena, and there had been talks about it, and it always kind of fell through here. I guess the discussion here should be, one, do you both think that Quebec City is a viable NHL market? Hint, I do, personally. But two, just the Ottawa Senators in general being a mess, kind of.
Well, I think there'd definitely be interest there. I mean, think about Quebec, right? Just the rivalry they had with the Canadians back in the day. It's like the Jets' success, the Jets' return was a success, so you think the Nordiques would be too. I think if that's the problem, holding them back, but I think the fan base, it wouldn't be a problem there. I think Canada deserves another team. Even I can admit that as a proud American there. If anybody deserves expansion, it's them, in my opinion. But it's just how's the semantics of that? How's it play out? Can it work?
Yeah, I mean, so much of this stuff it comes down to money. So it's like, just because there's like a passionate fan base there doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best place for like a new team. There are places in America that would probably be able to yield more money just because of the population being bigger. Like the fan base might be super strong in Quebec, but I think it's all a numbers game. And you've seen it with Winnipeg too. It's like sometimes they have trouble getting fans into regular season games and stuff like that. And I feel like over the past couple of years, there's been rumblings about is it going to work in Winnipeg and stuff like that. So I don't know. That would be my only pushback.
There's issue in Canada, like the value of the Canadian dollar. Even us in the United States are experiencing things like inflation, the cost of living being very high. It's kind of tough to go to a hockey game nowadays. We're lucky that the Hawks are kind of terrible right now, and we can buy tickets on the cheap on a random Tuesday night, when we don't wait until the last second, because that trick never works.
It does sometimes, but, just not when we're together.
But you know what I'm saying here? For let's say a family of 5 in Winnipeg to go to an NHL game, when that's legitimately the only thing in town. There's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers CFL team, which is an opposite season to the NHL, right? But there's not a ton of other things to do in Winnipeg, right? Yeah. So it is difficult to a family of 5, you get some snacks or something at the arena. You're looking at, a $700-800 night, So I get the idea. I think Quebec City is a good market. I'm trying to pick my words here. I've slandered Seattle a little bit, because I don't think that they've done enough. They haven't done, and look, the Golden Knights are always going to be an incredibly tough act to follow, both on the ice and off the ice. but I just think like the gap between where Vegas sits in like league revenue and where Seattle sits, like I don't know what the exact gap is, but I would imagine it's sizable. You know, I would imagine Seattle sits somewhere in the bottom third of the league in revenue, and you know the Golden Knights are somewhere in the top third of the NHL.
Yeah, Vegas. I mean, that's what was always going to be beneficial for them, right? Gifted an all-star team right away too.
Yeah, but like, you know, like, but Vegas was like, you know, the thing about Vegas was like they were there first, right? Like they were the first, you know, I guess the WNBA, but you know what I mean? Like they were there before football.
Yeah. Seattle didn't have that same benefit. Yeah.
No, they already had the Mariners. They already had the Seahawks. Like people in Seattle are dying for the Supersonics to come back, and the NBA is hinted that they most likely will bring the Supersonics back. Like the competition for attention in Seattle is a lot bigger than it is. Like in Vegas, you sunk people in with that first season. Like those people are diehard Golden Knights fans more than they are Las Vegas Raiders fans. So my point is like I don't know. Like I understand the dollar value of like putting a team in Houston versus putting a team in Quebec City, but like, are you really gonna like? You got the Rockets, you got the Texans, you know what I mean? Like, but are people really going to like die for
Quebec,
it?
you know the support's going to be there. Some of these American markets, it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Like bringing back the Thrashers, for example. Like they've tried that twice in Atlanta and how'd that work out? So, yeah.
Not great. Not great.
Yeah. Bring back the Nordiques. I missed them. I say that like I was alive when they existed. But, yeah, if the Jets worked out, why not the Nordiques?
Yeah. So you guys are pro or anti-Nordique?
I'm pro. I'm all for it. Yeah.
Also, what do you guys think? I don't know if we've discussed this on the show, but what is then the perfect number of teams to have in the NHL?
Well, that's the frustrating thing. I think we have that right now. That's the tough thing. I think 32 teams, 8 in each division, 16 in, 16 out, 50%. Like I think that is ideal. So that's the thing. Honestly, if it's me, ideally, we're good. But like if we are going to expand, that would probably be my first play. But I kind of think 32 teams is ideal. You had another one, something that screws with the format again. And they got to figure that out.
Exactly. Yeah. I think if it's more than 32, it's almost got to be 36.
Then they really got to think about, which I'm not a big fan. We've talked about this on the show. Like, I don't want to expand the playoffs. But like if we are going to expand, right, they're probably not going to want more teams missing than making it, right? I would think. They probably would expand the format, I would think.
And then expansion also does water down the talent,
I was just going to say, does that does adding 4 more NHL teams, like can you take players from the American Hockey League and Europe and like spread it out enough to fill up 4 more NHL teams? Like we already see the goaltending is like really brutal, and I know it goes through peaks and valleys of like, the shooters figure out the goalies and then the goalies figure out the shooters and then the goalies or the shooters figure out the goalie. Like it goes back and forth with that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, goaltending is like atrocious these days.
Yeah, I
think no other league has that much too. It's either 30 or 32, right? So if we're going beyond that, like we're kind of going to uncharted territory there.
But no league also has as big of a presence in Canada. You know what I mean? Like there are how many Canadian NHL teams? 7.
Yeah.
So there's 25 American teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
You'd probably be adding like Quebec City. If you were to add 4 more NHL teams, you'd add 1 in Quebec City and then 3 in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe a second, maybe like a Hamilton or something, like a second Toronto. If it's a Canadian.
I think a second Toronto team would be really cool. I don't know that Hamilton really has because
Mississauga.
The thing about Hamilton is like, you're infringing almost on the Buffalo Sabres territory too, because a lot of people in Southern Ontario are Sabres fans. So it's not just like the Leafs you'd have to go through. You'd also have to go through the Buffalo Sabres. But I think like a second team in the GTA would be pretty cool. But again, just because there are so many like young people, like for as many Leafs fans as there are as many people that are like sick of the Leafs too.
GTA, is that what you call it? Greater Toronto Area? Is that what everybody calls us over there?
Yeah.
GTA.
The GTA.
Second team in Toronto land before GTA 6.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate that either. You'd have a bunch of people that are like anti-Leafs that would just be like cheering for this other team because it's something different. It's something that isn't the Maple Leafs. I'm reading comments.
Idea.
It'd be like Manchester City, Manchester United. You'd be like
that'd be the second NHL team now too, right after New York City, obviously. So I'd cheer for that team. I think just being the I kind of like that idea actually. Yeah. More reasons to cheer against the Leafs.
Holt also saying, Wisconsin not having an NHL team is a travesty.
Milwaukee, they've been having preseason games in Milwaukee. I don't know if there's a reason for that beyond just the Hawks market in Wisconsin, right? But maybe there's something there. Yeah.
Thomas Tracy in chat saying Saskatchewan needs a team. Regina could handle one, maybe.
Regina Pats NHL team.
Yeah, to make the Regina Pats an NHL
no,
club.
I want Betsy leaving. I'm just kidding. We're feeding to that nonsense.
Talk about having a tough time getting NHL free agents to go to Canada. Like, man, getting it.
Who the hell wants to live in Regina? It's Saskatchewan. What do you do there?
You're gonna have to pay Will Borgen $20 million to go to Regina. Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry to all of our listeners in Regina, but that's tough. That's tough.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up Houston, right? I mean, that'd be an ideal rivalry of like Dallas. There are two Texas teams that's the biggest market, right? Fourth largest city that's not really utilized right now, so that could pay out, right?
Houston just like puzzles me though. Like, is that really a hockey market?
Well, I mean,
if it's worked for Dallas,
I
think it would.
The idea and the hope would be that it would turn it into one, like an NHL team going there, because of the population. Then, I mean, whenever there's an NHL team anywhere having success, it's gonna breed a new crop of fans and people playing the game in that area. So
I just think there's places like I think Kansas City would be cool. I think Portland would be cool. I think Atlanta.
I'm in the Cleveland area. I'd be for the Cleveland Barons. Bring them back.
Yeah. I would rather move the Blue Jackets to Cleveland in my mind, but
relocation.
I think they've had good attendance this year.
Yeah, they have.
Well, they're right in college town there in OSU land, so I think it actually works out pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, the Racers.
Yeah, maybe. That's is hockey really popular there though?
Yeah, maybe there's a Hawks market, but yeah, probably not. Yeah.
True. Yeah, I think Portland would be fun. You guys don't like that idea? No.
Be a good rivalry with Seattle potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I don't know why I'm just like naturally uninterested in like West Coast teams.
Okay.
I feel like there is. I mean, you look at we do have a ton of East Coast, right? But probably there is maybe a need for another team there potentially.
Yeah.
I know we just added Seattle, but there is a bit of a balance of power there. There's not really a lot of teams in the middle, right? And like Colorado land, things like that. We just added Utah though. Phoenix, right? Bring back the Coyotes.
Bring back the Coyotes. That's an option. Yeah, another old team that you could bring back. The Hartford Whalers, maybe.
Whalers.
I think that would be a team that would do well in its second go round, right?
That's the right kind of area, right? I mean, hockey's that's pretty big there. So yeah, I think that probably. You think that would work out? Right?
Go back to Atlanta,
dude.
Thrashers, baby.
I'm down to bring back the Thrashers. I know it probably isn't going to do super well, but maybe.
Yeah, I missed that logo
so
team.
big.
That pretty good aura. Yeah, you think it would work out there? I mean, if it works out in Florida, why wouldn't it work out in Georgia? I don't know. A lot of those like southern markets there, right? Yeah. Hockey's gotten a lot better there.
SEC hockey, baby. Let's go.
Oh, don't even get me started. I need SEC Division I hockey. Like, I need it in my.
Well, that would help that out, right? Maybe that would make that a thing, right?
Yeah, true.
I don't know. That's more about asking the NCAA to, help pony up to help, grow some of these fan bases and also grow some of these conferences. And, all these schools need large donations. Like, I don't know if you remember when, like the owner of the Chicago Wolves, actually, Don Levin, was one of the bigger donors as far as Arizona State getting their program going. Penn State getting their program Division I. Shout out my Nittany Lions. Today.
Illinois, wake up! University of Illinois. Get a team.
I think COVID really derailed that for University of Illinois. Like, they were close to getting something going here, and that COVID kind of killed it.
Yeah, there should be a D1 team in Illinois, man.
There's like one or two Division III teams here, and it's like Lake Forest College and Aurora University.
Yeah, that's just, and Illinois it's become such a bigger hockey state, man. There's no reason there shouldn't be one. Yeah.
Illinois is a top 10 hockey
right, wake
state.
up.
Illinois is a top 10.
I think you could argue it's the fifth best after the Big Four, right? I think you could make that argument.
What are the Big Four?
Massachusetts, Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. Yeah.
Oh, fair. All right. Yeah. All right, number 5. Chicago Hockey Radio, everybody. Post-game show after tomorrow's game against the Bolts. Live stream Thursday during the game against the Hurricanes. Show on Wednesday with no Lee, correct, on that show. So it'll be just me and Justin holding down the fort.
You will be missed.
And live show March 5th, Wednesday. It is a Wednesday.
Yep.
The game starts at 6:30. You can be there as early as 6 o'clock, maybe even 5:45, and come get your seat early. Go to the link in the description of this episode and let us know your interest level. Let us know if you'll be sure if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm going no matter what. Like I will be there. Let us know in the link in the description of this episode, both on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Audily. That's such a weird word, but it is an actual word. All right. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, both at Chicago Hockey Radio, and leave a 5-star rating and review. We thank everybody for their support, allowing us to go do fun things like live shows and stuff like that. We're off to a business meeting now. So keep doing all that stuff, and we will be able to keep doing fun stuff. We really appreciate all of you. And we'll be back tomorrow after the postgame.